Aurora, I don't have a single penny for you or that pathetic mother of yours. My father, the beta of the Ravenclaw pack, roared. I clung desperately to his leg, tears streaming down my face. My mother had been diagnosed with heart failure. Without treatment, she had only a month to live. 5 years after being cast out of the pack, I swallowed my pride and came back here, just to beg him for her life. He was my last hope. When I was 18, I failed to complete my first transformation. From that day on, he changed completely. Within a week, he threw me and my mother out of the house himself. His reason? The pack doesn't keep useless trash. Soon after, Stella and her mother moved in, the woman from the packaging factory who had been his mistress for years. What could I say? I couldn't transform, and I had no strength to resist. All I could do was leave with my mother, comforting her, promising that we'd find a better life. 5 years passed. Yes, we were far from the pack and that cursed factory, living in a small cottage on the outskirts. But just when I thought life had finally calmed down, fate came for her again, with a knife in hand. So here I was, back again, stripped of dignity, standing at this door once more. Dad, please, remember all those years you spent with Mom. You two used to run together, support each other. You told her you couldn't live without her. Don't you remember? Please, please don't let her die. I sobbed. She can rot in hell. She's not my mate. She betrayed me. She gave birth to you, a bastard child. You useless piece of filth. He spat right in my face. You're 23 and still can't shift. You're not of my blood. Dad, I'm your daughter. I shook my head, desperate. Mom has always been faithful to you. I couldn't transform. It was an accident. But Mom never had anyone else. I could see the love my mother had for him. Deep, unwavering. She would never betray him. Bullshit. No beta wolf could ever sire a wolfless omega. Your mother was a warrior wolf. You're not my daughter. You're a bastard. Go to your mother and find out who your real father is. Some pathetic omega, no doubt. His eyes flared red as he shouted. Get out before I rip your throat open with my claws, he growled. My shoulders trembled, but I had nowhere else to go. No, I'll pay you back, I promise. Please, Dad. I kept begging. I had a job. I could work harder, pay the hospital bill. Bitch, are you deaf? He bellowed, then kicked me hard in the stomach with the tip of his leather shoe. Pain exploded through me. I curled up on the floor, gasping. It hurts. Dad. My half-sister Stella suddenly appeared, wearing a short robe and thigh-high boots. I need $30,000 for my vacation, she said sweetly. My father's face softened instantly. Oh, darling, is that enough? I don't want you to be short on anything. I'll write you a check right now. Take the Porsche, and call me if you need more. He said it warmly, already scribbling on the check. I stood there speechless, stunned. He handed her the check. Stella squealed with joy, threw her arms around him, then shot me a smug look before running off. I couldn't believe it. He had just given her twice what my mother needed for treatment, for something as trivial as a vacation, yet he was willing to watch his loyal, hard-working wife die. Dad, Mom only needs $15,000. Can you? Stella's happiness matters more than the lives of you and that useless woman. Don't you dare step into this house again. You're filth, and I want nothing to do with you, he shouted, standing up. I lunged forward, grabbing his leg. Guards! Throw this stranger out! She's forbidden from entering this house ever again. From today, she's no longer a member of this family. 2 guards stormed over, seizing my arms and dragging me out. Dad, please, please save Mom. I screamed, kicking and struggling, but they were far stronger than me. They threw me outside. Rain poured down, drenching my thin robe until it clung to my body. I shivered uncontrollably. Please, just let me in, I pleaded, my voice shaking. The guards laughed. They stood under umbrellas, watching me like predators. If you're willing to do anything for money, I can give you a few hundred, one of them said, hand sliding toward his crotch. The other burst out laughing. Can't wait to see how you taste. I fought the urge to spit in their faces. Get lost, you disgusting bastards, I shouted. I knew they wouldn't actually touch me. It would ruin my father's reputation. The beta couldn't risk the alpha finding out his guards had assaulted his daughter. Clutching my stomach, I forced myself up from the muddy ground as rain washed over me. I didn't know who else to turn to. The image of my mother lying weak in that hospital bed burned in my mind, and tears flooded my eyes again. I'd always thought I was strong. After we were cast out that year, I'd supported us by tutoring PAC children and working at a small clinic. Mom always said I was her little miracle, that I had the courage she never did. I couldn't transform, but I learned to survive with my mind. I remembered every patient's name, every pup's little illnesses, every mother who cried under the moonlight. Maybe that was my only strength. In a world that didn't want the wolfless, I still tried to be worth something. But now, all that worth meant nothing to him. I know you don't want to bother Theodore. My wolf, Riley, murmured softly, but he's our only option right now. I closed my eyes tightly and nodded. My legs carried me through the pounding rain toward a familiar place. Theodore, my mate. In the pack, no one wanted to go near a wolfless Omega. I was always the one standing in the corner of the party, quiet, invisible, treated like a curse. But when I was 18, Theodore didn't reject me. He picked me up in his arms and swore to treat me as his life. I'd never wanted to burden him with my troubles. He was an alpha, and he had never blamed me for not being able to shift. He treated me like I was something precious. Even when I told him that my mother wished we'd make love after our marking ceremony, he accepted it with gentle patience. "I'm already lucky enough to have met you, love," Theodore would always say, his voice soft. "I won't ask for more. I'll wait for you until we can complete the ceremony together." Just thinking of him eased my pain. I was sure Theodore would help me. Aurora. Stepping into the hospital to see Mom connected to 3 different machines made my heart bleed. I wiped away all the tears as I sat beside Mom and grabbed her hand, trying to fake a smile. I wanted to appear happy before her, even though my heart was in turmoil. "Mom, Dad has refused to give me the money, but I assure you that I will find it. I applied for jobs yesterday, and I've not gotten any jobs yet. I'm willing to go and work at the pack house. I heard the pay for the maids is very good, and I'll do everything possible to get the job. I'd do anything for you, Mom." I whispered as tears streamed down my cheeks. "I'll go home today, make you very hot tea because it rained heavily today, and when you're awake, I'll massage your legs. Mom, please, I want you to do something for me. While I run around to gather the money, please hang in there. Don't give up because I'll find a way to save you." I whispered, sobbing quietly now as I kissed her hands. "I've missed your cooking greatly. I promise not to ever take you for granted. I'll cherish every moment with you from now henceforth." I whispered, and hearing the door squeak, I quickly wiped away my tears, my head glued to the ground as Dr. Wayne walked inside. "Aurora." "Dr. Wayne, good day. I just want to say thank you so much for this. It means the world to me." I whispered, and he nodded. "Have you started gathering the money? You know there's very little time left, or have you changed your mind?" he asked, and I shook my head vehemently. "No, I would never choose such an option," I insisted stubbornly, and he exhaled deeply. "Aurora, I've tried getting the beta to cover the cost of half of the medical fees, at least something to start with, but he has refused and has cut off every possible way for you to get help from the pack. It's been a week. If this had been discovered early, maybe she would be fine now, but it's already getting too late, and watching her suffer this way breaks my heart. I know it's difficult, but think about it. If you don't get the money at the end of this week, I suggest euthanasia," he advised, and I shook my head, biting back tears. "No, doctor, I will get the money and save Mom. I promise. I don't mind taking a loan," I replied, and he exhaled. "Your father has blocked every chance possible. You need to figure out a way to get the money, and seeing that your father is determined to have things go his way, I doubt if you will be able to find any job in the pack," he explained, and I staggered back in astonishment. As if throwing me out in the rain wasn't enough, he was determined to make our life a living hell. What have I done to deserve this? Why has the goddess forsaken us? "Thank you, doctor. You don't have to worry. I'll do anything to get the money. Mom is going to get treated." It was hard to tell whether it was him or myself I was talking to. He exhaled deeply, stared at her vitals for a moment, and paused. He glanced at me closely, and I was filled with confusion. "Dr. Wayne, is there a problem?" I asked, my heart pounding heavily, and he shook his head. "Please, meet me in my office now," he muttered, and I nodded, walking behind him. Once inside the office, I sat on the chair calmly, my heart racing, as I prayed fervently for it to be something different. Goddess knew I was already going through a lot, and more complications wasn't what I needed at this point. I hear 2 offers for you. Dr. Wayne handed me a cup of juice. I don't like this at all. I gulped down the juice thirstily. Offers? You need the money, and you can offer what I want. Be rest assured I'm not asking you to sell your body. He added, and I heaved a sigh of relief, although I was still troubled. What are they? The Alpha is in need of a surrogate mother and Luna for 5 years. He's willing to pay a fortune, no strings attached, and after that 5 years he will divorce you and take the child. That? I became speechless instantly, and he stared at me patiently for an answer. You need the money urgently, and he's willing to offer $1 million every month. Dr. Wayne added, and my eyes widened with shock. With that amount, I could pay for Mom's medical treatment and give her a better life. Okay. I swallowed hard, trying to hide my apprehension. And the second offer? His gaze locked with mine. I inject you with a different sperm. You become his Luna, but before the end of your 5-year contract, you must kill the Alpha. I flinched. My heart hammered with fear, and my wolf became restless inside me. She clawed at me to refuse the offer immediately. It was treason, and the goddess knew my head would be hanging on the gates of the pack house if I got caught. He smiled. It was a vile smile. You know you will never amount to anything, not with your father determined to destroy you. The only person that can save you from him is the Alpha. So you can either accept my bidding, save your mom and secure a future for yourself, or refuse my offer and wait for your weak mother in hell. You have 5 minutes to decide. He replied coldly, and I felt a sharp pain in my heart. He flashed a tiny bottle before me, his head cocked as he waited for my answer while a little clock ticked away, reminding me that it was my life against that of the Alpha, Aurora. I laid on the cold hospital bed, counting the seconds till the doctor would arrive. I couldn't control my tears as I thought about what I had agreed to do. It was a horrible thing, but I was ready to do anything to save my mother's life. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry, but I can't just let you die. I sobbed into my palms, and my cheeks were still damp by the time the doctor came into the room. He didn't look twice at me, concentrating on the syringe he was filling with a strange fluid. When he caught me watching him curiously, he came to my bedside, the syringe in hand. Don't look so scared. This is to make you fall asleep while I conduct the artificial insemination. Artificial insemination? I didn't know those words and suddenly became unsure of what I had agreed to do. Is that what you explained to me earlier? Yes, he replied impatiently, checking my arm for a vein. Now go to sleep and let me get this done. I winced softly when he injected me, and within minutes I was knocked out cold. I didn't know how long I was unconscious, but I woke up with nothing more than a faint headache. When I raised a hand to my head to massage it, my nose picked up a strange bit pleasant scent. The scent was like fresh forest wood, and my eyes blinked open in curiosity. Sitting beside my bed and staring at me with cold eyes as dark as the abyss was a man I had never seen before. He was handsome, and his raven dark hair was glossy, but his square chin was so hard that it looked like it could cut glass. Who was he, and why was he looking at me like he could see through my clothes? I pulled up the hospital sheet up to my chest self-consciously, and his eyes traced the movement, a chill running down my spine. It wasn't until I heard someone clear his throat that I realized that Dr. Wayne was in the room too. You are finally awake, he said, coming to stand beside the man who was still seated. Alpha Xavier, please meet your surrogate, Aurora Gonzalo. Alpha Xavier? Was he the one seated there? Oh, goddess! I suddenly felt the need to throw up, sitting up too fast, and my eyes spinned. No wonder he was looking at me, maybe trying to know if I was strong enough to carry his baby. Why is she shaking like that? Is she ill? Alpha Xavier spoke for the first time, but he was asking the doctor about me as if I wasn't there. His voice was so deep that I had to concentrate on the words before I could hear what he was saying. He sounded genuinely concerned about me, and my guilt doubled. How did the doctor expect me to kill someone who was 3 times bigger than I was? No, she isn't. You are probably just making her uncomfortable. Don't be mad at your soon-to-be husband, Aurora. I know he frowns a lot, and it can be scary sometimes, Dr. Wayne joked, winking at me with a smile attached. I nodded stiffly, not understanding the joke, but not knowing what else to do. Regardless, Alpha Xavier sat very still, his lips pressed together in a hard line. Goddess, does he ever smile? How was I supposed to live with him for 5 years if he was that cold and detached? I forgot my dizziness, fear replacing the rest of my emotions as I watched him cautiously. How do you feel? I heard the question come from the Alpha's lips, but it took me a few seconds to understand that he was asking me. I'm good, I replied hastily, and wanted to slap myself at how lame I sounded. I mean, I'm all right, not dizzy at all, and I am, Gosh, what was I saying? He would probably think I was crazy or something now. I turned to the doctor, my face red in shame, and he shook his head at me. I looked down at my hands and bit down on my tongue, wanting to vanish into thin air. Good, I will send my gamma to come get you later. He spoke like a robot, without showing any emotions, but that made it easier for me to hear him clearly. He will bring you to the pack house to rest after you are discharged. His name is Lewis, and make sure you do whatever he tells you. When you are strong enough, I will fix a date to present you to the pack as my mate. Understood? His mate. I was really doing this. I was really going to his surrogate Luna. Well, as long as he kept to his side of the deal and provided the money for my mother's surgery without me having to sleep with him, I was good with the plan. Yes, I understand, I stammered, nodding as well in case he didn't hear me. He stood up almost immediately, moving with that smooth grace that professional ballet dancers had. He had a bulky body, but by the tightness of his leather jacket, it was more of muscles than fat. Good. I will be leaving then. Let's finish our discussion some other time, Wayne. As you wish, Alpha. Dr. Wayne stepped out to see him off, and I got a few minutes of privacy. I checked my body for any signs that it had been tampered with, but apart from a dull ache from where the doctor had injected me, I felt nothing. Was it supposed to be that easy? The door opened again, and I pushed my knees up to my chest to defend myself. It was Dr. Wayne, and he was no longer smiling. The anger I saw in his eyes made my fear return, and I pressed myself against the wall to hide. When you get to the pack house, you better keep your mouth shut and do whatever you are told for the sake of your mother's life. If you blow my cover, I will end your already miserable life for good. He pointed at me with his index finger, his voice cold and frightening. I nodded my head multiple times nervously, swallowing any incoming tears. What about my mom? Did the artificial insemination work? I pronounced the big words slowly because I was not yet familiar with them. It was successful, the doctor admitted, and I almost collapsed with relief. Thank you, goddess. So when will her surgery be, Ske? I'm here. A young man barged into the room without knocking, his broad shoulders filling the door entrance. Was that supposed to be? Alpha Xavier sent me to pick up his mate, he announced, walking confidently into the room. When his eyes met with mine, he smiled, the first genuine smile I had seen all day. Hello, I'm Lewis. Are you ready to go? Aurora. Who is she? Why is she in the pack house? Isn't she the bastard of the Beta family? Whispers rang out as I walked inside, and I raised my head, staring at them intently. Why is she here? Does the Alpha know she's here? Should I get the guards to throw her out? Another whispered, and Louis appeared behind me, making them disperse. I exhaled deeply as I glared at them. There was no use burying my head. I'm not a bastard, neither did my mom cheat. The Alpha would join you in a few minutes, he muttered as he opened the door to the main sitting room, and I nodded, my jaws dropping as I glanced around in astonishment. I had never entered the pack house. The closest I had been to the gate was outside. Stella was always in the pack house, having fun and accompanying Dad while I stayed in the house, doing every chore you can think of. Thank you, I whispered as I glanced at the long chandeliers hanging from the top of the house. It was a large room with ancient furniture and vintage paintings on the wall, something completely different from what I expected from such a cold Alpha. You don't need to be stunned. The Alpha is human too, Louis whispered, and I nodded faintly, trying not to smile. Have your seat. I'll have the maids serve you. Are you hungry? I shook my head instantly, but my stomach betrayed me by growling, and I bowed my head in shame. It's fine. You can be scared of Alpha Xavier, but I'm different, although I think you shouldn't be scared of your new husband. He teased, and I bowed my head, smiling faintly. Ignore the omegas. They hardly utter a word when Xavier is around. You've got nothing to be worried about," he assured before he left the sitting room. 5 minutes later, he walked out with a maid behind him, pushing a food cart. "This way," he muttered, and I nodded. "Thank you." We walked into a large dining room with a large oak table and numerous chairs. Everything about this house left my jaws hanging, and after I managed to get a hold of myself, I lowered myself into the nearest chair. My mouth watered as the maids served the food, and I dug in immediately, unbothered about what they were going to say. I was halfway done with my food when the air suddenly went tense. I could smell a lot of fear in the air, and my hair began to rise. I didn't need to glance around to know the alpha was around. I swallowed and bowed my head in fear. His tall figure stopped a few steps away from mine, and he pulled a chair as he joined us on the table. "Welcome, Alpha," Luis muttered, and bowed my head, too stunned to utter a word as my hand began trembling in fear. "Let's discuss the contract when you finish eating," he announced, and I nodded hastily. I continued eating, but this time my movements were very slow. I found it hard to eat as all that crossed my mind was the alpha. He was at least 6'0" tall, and his muscular body was evidence of the years he spent in the gym or training, or probably both. It was hard to even glance at him ever because of how scary and handsome he looked. I finished my meal, and the maid came over to whisk it away. "Should I excuse you?" Louis demanded, and I looked up to see that the alpha was done eating. "Yes," he replied gruffly, and Louis flashed me a sad smile before he dashed out. "Do you know what you've agreed to?" I nodded hastily without raising my head. "Your name." "I'm Aurora, the daughter of the beta." He glanced at me faintly before nodding. "This is strictly business. No feelings should be attached. I have my private life, and so can you, as long as you keep it away from the public. You're going to be my Luna. I want you to be as gracious as possible. Under no circumstances should you utter the wrong words or act strangely outside. This deal is going to last for just 5 years. Do not try to seduce me because it won't work. You're here for business," he instructed, and I nodded. "Yes, Alpha. I'll hold a party tomorrow where I'm going to announce our union. Do you have any questions?" he demanded, and I shook my head. "Come with me, I'll show you around," he instructed as he stood up, and I did the same, swallowing very hard as I stood behind him, his back blocking my view. My heart was pounding heavily, and as he glanced at me, I felt my heart triple its beat as I made my way beside him. "This would be your room. It's opposite mine. The house has a garden, about 20 rooms, a large field for training, a gaming and gym center, the kitchen and the maids, they stay at the house behind the house," he explained, and I nodded. "Thank you, Alpha, for this opportunity," I replied. "That being said, the maid will come one to take your measurements and bring you dresses," he whispered as he pushed the door open, and I nodded. "Thank you, Alpha." He turned around to leave while I stepped inside. "Aurora, your fear is too visible. If you want to pull this off, then the least you can do is control your fears," he instructed, and I nodded hastily. "I'll work on that, I'm sorry," I replied, and he left without a word. I closed the door slowly, resting on the door as I listened to my pounding heart. "I don't know if this is a great idea or bad one, Riley. I just want to know how Mom is doing," I whispered to my wolf as I took a step back, admiring the large room with the largest bed I'd ever seen. This room was triple the size of my old room, and for the first time I felt free like a bird. With a soft smile, I let myself slump on the bed as I imagined how blissful it'd be to sleep on this bed. "Xavier, do you think everything will work out well? I'm sure the elders would be against it. They have all pitched their daughters to you," Louis muttered, and I scoffed. "I'm Alpha, Louis. I can make a decision with or without their blessings. I want her, and that's final," I retorted, and he stared at me with a frown. "Don't tell me you like her because she's too timid to be your type of woman. You love them bold and gracious. She's far from that," he pointed out, and I burst into laughter. "I won't have you talk about my Luna that way. She's the complete opposite of what I like, and it makes it easier to ignore even if my wolf tries to act funny," I answered, and Louis exhaled deeply. "I feel bad for her. She's too innocent for you. You're nothing but a selfish bastard. She'll be losing, especially when you divorce her. Nobody would dare be with the woman you've left." I'll find her a husband before the divorce, I retorted, and he burst into laughter. What do you think the beta would say about your union? I heard he hates this one and her mother. He whispered, and I shrugged. I was still speaking when the beta walked inside, panting heavily like he had jogged to this place. Alpha Xavier? He called softly with his head bowed, and I turned to him. Yes, Darren. There's news making rounds now, and I'm hoping to hear that it's false. Are you getting married to my bastard? He asked, and I flashed him a glare. No, I'm getting married to your second daughter, I answered, and he shook his head. No, she's nothing but a fucking bastard like her mom. She's a cheat, and I'm sure you will regret it, Alpha. Please do not make this mistake. You can have anybody. I can give her elder sister to you. I'm watching out for you, Alpha Xavier. He muttered, and Louis concealed a smile. Thank you for your concern, but I've made my decision, and I can take care of myself. If you have any problem, please take it out with your daughter. I replied, and he shook his head. No, she's unworthy of being your mate. She's nothing but a bitch. She has a mate, and now she dumped her mate just because she wants to be with you. She's nothing but an opportunist who wants to sleep her way to the top. He relies, and I frowned heavily. She has a mate? I clenched my fists, and just as I was about to speak, she scoffed. Really? Is this how low you're willing to stoop just because you don't want to see me happy? Her voice was filled with pain, and a tear slipped down her cheek. She wiped it away and faked a smile. All my life I've done nothing but be a good daughter. I've never disrespected you or done anything to infuriate you, yet you hate me for no reason. Mom was loyal to a fault, but you treated her like trash. You threw her out when she needed you the most, and you refused to help, but now you feel you can come in here to voice out your opinion? She scoffed, and Darren's eyes flashed with anger. How dare you talk to me? You piece of trash! Don't you have a mate? He barked, and she smiled. No, because I rejected him. I just realized I'm slightly different from Mom, because unlike her, I'm not going to stay with a cheating man. I'm going to pick up the shreds of my heart and walk away rather than suffer in silence. She replied, and he growled at her. How dare you? Do you think being the Luna would keep you safe? This marriage isn't happening. I oppose it as your father. He thundered, and she burst into laughter. I wondered if there was ever a moment where she laughed because she wanted to. Need I remind you that you disowned me a few hours ago before throwing me out of your house? I'm sorry, Beta Darren, but my father is dead. You mean nothing to me. She replied coldly, and a little smile appeared on my lips. Alpha Xavier, my decision has been made, I replied, and he glared at her for a moment. You will regret this. He promised as he left, and Louis stared at Aurora with shock. Her shoulders were slumped like she had countless burdens on her weak body. I'm so sorry for that, Alpha. I promise it'll never repeat itself. She pleaded, and I nodded. It's fine. I knew there would be opposition, I answered, and she nodded. Excuse me, Alpha, she muttered as she turned around and walked away. Wow, I'm shocked. I can't believe the timid and tiny woman can go against the beta, and oh, she's fucking right about him. He does nothing but chase women around, and she rejected her mate. Damn, that's insane. Congratulations, Alpha. You just found your female version. What a perfect match. He muttered with a smile, and I glared at him. She would be good in the pack business. I was worried about her getting bullied, but I know that she's the best option. Invite all the alphas. I'm glad Wayne did the insemination. I'm sure we would get results in a few weeks' time. Wayne, you know I don't trust that bastard 1 inch. It's fine. He's one of the best doctors in the pack. You've got nothing to be worried about, I replied, and he nodded. All right, Alpha. I just hope we don't regret this. So what's the theme of the party? Something elaborate? And are you guys going to exchange vows? You know, ultimately you'll have to mark her in order to make people less suspicious. I'll have the mark taken care of, and for her to have my scent. I would do the scent bathing for her. The party is going to be a reception of the amazing vows we shared secretly, I answered, and he burst into laughter. Alpha, a guard mumbled as he walked inside with his head bowed. What? The elders have refused to accept your invitation. According to them, you cannot marry an Omega. They said she's unworthy of a great man like you, he explained, fear coursing through his veins as he spoke. Fine. Instruct the guards at the gate to stop all the elders from attending the party. I ordered, and his eyes widened with shock, but he nodded hastily. Aurora. Alpha Xavier placed his hand on my waist, and I jerked forward, feeling nervous as he glanced at me. He was awkwardly close, and his scent made it impossible to take notice of the other scent around. Maids gave way as we walked towards the pack hall. I was dressed in a long, tight black gown with diamond earrings and necklace. My hair was packed in a bun. My heart was pounding heavily as we walked into the room, and everyone's attention turned to us. I felt like digging a hole and entering the ground as my hands trembled slightly. Don't blow our cover, Aurora. Get a hold of yourself. Remember, there are other alphas here and we feed on fear. He whispered, and I nodded, feigning a smile. I'm okay. It was hard to tell whether I was trying to convince him or myself, but I inhaled repeatedly and slowly let myself relax in his arms. Walking inside, the hall erupted with murmurs as they watched us closely. Lewis was the first to come over with a smile. Congratulations, Alpha. He shook hands with Xavier, who smiled. I dropped a little gift in your room. I hope you like it, he said as he turned to me and a smile appeared on my lips. Wow, thank you so much. I want your gold mine as my gift. Even with a sword to my throat, you're never getting it, he replied with a glare. Congratulations, Alpha. Where did you find such a priceless jewel? A middle-aged man muttered as he walked over with a faint smile. From his regal attire, it was easy to tell he was an alpha. Thank you so much. I don't know. She just walked into my territory, and as the wise alpha, I knew it'd be foolish of me to let her go, he replied, and the other man nodded. You made the right decision. I wish you happiness, he announced and walked away while more alphas walked over, shaking hands and congratulating us. It was a very tiring process, but I forced myself to focus on it. It was my new role now, and the goddess knew I was going to play my role well. Are you hungry, honey? You can go over to the buffet while I discuss a few things with Dr. Wayne here. He muttered, and my heartbeat accelerated as my hands began trembling. Congratulations, being Luna looks nice on you. He muttered, and I forced a smile, nodding without a word as my stomach clenched. I think I'll go grab a drink. I stuttered after staring at him for a long time, and he nodded. Oh, wow, I'm heading that way. How about I accompany you? I wanted to protest, but he glared at me, making me smile faintly at Alpha Xavier before I slowly excused myself. You better not blow your cover. Smile and act right. If the alpha notices a slight change, I'm going to skin you alive. He threatened, and I nodded, gulping down saliva nervously. Good, now enjoy your new position. Hundreds of girls would die for it. Look at your sister, Stella. She had been devastated ever since she heard the news. He muttered, and I nodded again. He smiled at me before walking away, and I wobbled towards the table. I grabbed a champagne and drank it hastily, trying to gather myself together as my hands shook with fear. You can do this. Take a look at the bright side. Everything will be okay. Breathe. Breathe, Aurora. You'll never get caught. Dr. Wayne is in charge, and everything will be taken care of. You can do this. I whispered, and I heard a scowl beside me. Oh, please, you can't do nothing. You're not worthy of being in this place. You're nothing but an Omega who should be serving drinks at this party. She growled, and I scoffed, turning to face her. Watch your words. No. What are you going to do? Do you think marrying the alpha has made you above me? You're still beneath me. You'll forever be there. She replied, and I fisted my hands, staring at her with anger. Do you think the alpha wants you? Oh, please, do not flatter yourself. You're nothing but a temporary option. We both know the alpha is going to abandon you very soon, and do you know the beautiful thing about it? When he does, not even the guards would want you, because nobody would dare go for a woman who has been abandoned by the alpha. You will be reduced to an Omega, and everybody will see the filthy rag which you are. She spat out, and a nerve snapped inside of me. I was tired of hearing and taking every shit from her. Goddess knew where the bravery came from, because it certainly wasn't the real me. Watch your tongue, Stella. Do not make me throw you out of this party, I thundered, making everyone turn to us in astonishment. How dare you? Do you know who I am? She barked, and I scoffed. Yes, you're Stella, the daughter of the Beta. Do you know who I am? I thundered, and she rolled her eyes. You are an Omega, nothing but dirt. This is where you are wrong. I used to be an Omega, but not anymore. The tables have turned, Stella. Look in the mirror and see who the weak one is now. I whispered calmly. Xavier, this is where you are wrong. I used to be an Omega, but not anymore. The tables have turned, Stella. Look in the mirror and see who the weak one is now, she announced calmly, looking graciously beautiful, and I couldn't help but get amused. Are you insane? Stella retorted, raising her hand to slap her, and just when I was about to step in, Aurora grabbed her hand. I'm Luna, and you're nothing but my subject, and if you don't caution yourself, I'll instruct the guards to throw you out. Aurora warned, and Stella's eyes almost popped out in shock. You wouldn't. Guards! To my astonishment, the guards appeared before her almost immediately, and a small smile appeared before me. Throw her out, Aurora ordered, and Stella scoffed, smirking as she stared at the guards, waiting for them to lift a finger. You wouldn't dare. I'm the daughter of the Beta, Stella yelled, and I decided to step up. People gave way as I walked towards them. Fear flashed across Aurora's eyes as she stared at me, desperately wanting me to play along. Alpha Xavier? She's trying to throw me out. Are you deaf? Didn't you hear your Luna? I demanded, and her eyes widened in shock, while others gasped in astonishment. No, you can't throw me out. I should be here, she yelled as she got dragged out. Alpha, please pardon her. You can't throw her out. The Beta pleaded, and I turned to Aurora, who was staring at me with gratitude. She can stay after she apologizes to Aurora, I replied, and he stared at me with shock. I'd rather eat grass, she said with a scowl, and I signaled for the guards to throw her out, which they did. Alpha, let the party continue. Apologies for the brief distraction, I announced, and everyone went back to their normal routine while I walked towards Aurora. Thank you so much. I apologize, Alpha, she whispered as I placed my hand on her hips. She stiffened for a moment and slowly exhaled. It's fine. That was good. You should act like a real Luna, bark out orders and have people follow them, I replied, and she nodded. Yes, Alpha, she muttered, and I went around, exchanging pleasantries with more guests. The whole party continued while Aurora and I left, with the excuse of wanting more privacy. Once inside the pack house, she exhaled deeply, her shoulders slumped in tiredness. Is there anything I need to do in the next few days? She demanded, and I shook my head. No, I'll inform you of your schedule a day before. You'll accompany me to every pack party, I replied, and she nodded. Alpha, please. How is my mom? I haven't been able to see her since I left the hospital, and I'm concerned, she muttered with her head bowed, and I nodded. We'll go see her tomorrow. She'll be awake by then, I replied, and her eyes glowed with excitement. Thank you so much, she whispered, her voice almost inaudible, and I turned around. Morning. Good morning, Alpha, she muttered as she joined me in the dining room, and I grunted a response as I read the newspaper. I was the headline, and I shrugged as I glanced at the picture of Aurora and I they had uploaded. I'll drop you off at the hospital before heading to the office, I muttered, and she whispered a thank you. We ate in silence, and when I was done, she dashed upstairs to get her bag. We entered the car from both sides, and I scrolled through my phone as the car left the pack house. I had received several calls from Beta Darren, which I refused to answer. I knew he would be furious with the headlines about one daughter throwing the other out. We have arrived, Alpha, the driver announced, and I nodded. Thank you so much. I can find my way back, she muttered, bowing her head, and I rolled my eyes as I pushed the door open. Alpha? I ignored her words and grabbed her hand before I led her into the hospital. The nurses glanced at us with astonishment while bowing their heads. This isn't the way to her room, she protested when I took the turn towards the private wards. Her room was changed, I muttered, and she nodded. I pushed the door open, and she gasped as she covered her mouth, taking a moment to glance around. Wow! She was a few words away from screaming, and she dashed towards the bed, smiling softly as tears ran down her spine. Mom, she called softly to her mom, who opened her eyes weakly. Aurora. Her mom's frail voice erupted, and she nodded, smiling softly. Yes, Mom. I'm here. I'm sorry for not visiting early, she whispered as she grabbed her hand and intertwined it together. Good day, ma'am, I muttered, and their attention turned to me. Alpha? She bowed curtly, and I smiled politely. Mom, this is my husband, the Alpha. He's paying for your treatment, She explained, and her eyes teared up. Husband. I'm sorry I didn't wait for you to get well. I'm really sorry, Mom, she whispered sadly, and her mom nodded. It's fine, as long as you're happy, I'm happy too. I'm leaving. I'll come visit some other time, I muttered, and Aurora offered to see me off, but I refused vehemently. My phone rang, and I grabbed it immediately, striding out of the hospital. Is there any problem? Actually, yes and no. The beta has been in my house since morning, and he has been ranting about how you've decided to disrespect him and humiliate his family. Louis replied, and a smile made its way to my lips. Doesn't he have pack duties to take care of? Increase his workload and shorten the deadline. I'll see how he would make out time to rant, I ordered, and Louis burst into laughter. Aurora, I'm scared. Why did you marry the alpha? Is it because of my treatment? You shouldn't have. Mom, I married him because I wanted to. Mom, you don't need to be worried about anything, I assured her, kissing her hand softly. What about Theodore? He's your mate, and you can't abandon your mate. I didn't train you to do such. Do not be like your father, she whispered, and I nodded. I don't abandon him, Mom. Theodore was a cheat, Mom. I'll tell you everything when you recover fully, but be rest assured that I'm fine and happy, I assured with a smile, and she exhaled. All right. I just want you to be happy, she muttered, and I nodded. I'll get the doctor to check your vitals now and bring your meal, I muttered as I rose, staring at her with a smile as I walked towards the door. I didn't feel like leaving, but I had to. Arriving at the doctor's office, I was astonished to see a different doctor. Good morning, doctor, I muttered, and she flashed me a smile. Morning, Luna. I'm Dr. Rose. Wayne is away, and I'm in charge. Do you need my help with anything? She demanded, and for a moment I went blank. My heart began pounding heavily. Did we get caught? Does the Alpha know? Why would Dr. Wayne leave me alone to face this? Luna, is there a problem? Rose muttered as she waved, and I shook my head, staring at her with great fear. No, my mom is awake. Can you come check her vitals? I muttered, and she flashed me a smile. Oh, I'll do that now. I'm sorry for not coming earlier, she replied, and I nodded. I wobbled my way towards the ward, my heart pounding heavily as my palms began sweating. I bit my lips, trying to control my racing heart. Rose walked towards Mom, and I stepped back a bit, taking the time to inhale and exhale. Aurora! Yes, Mom, I replied hastily, and she glanced at me slightly. What's wrong? You seem restless. I can smell your fear and distress. She pointed out, and I flashed her a fake smile. I'm okay, Mom, I replied, trying to convince myself. Should I check your vitals too? Are you seeing symptoms already? She demanded, and I shook my head, flashing a smile while Mom stared at me with confusion. It's nothing, Mom. I'm okay, doctor. Please take care of Mom. I'd like to step out and get something for her to eat, I muttered. The hospital provides every meal, and yours included, Luna, she hinted, and I nodded. I just want to take a little stroll. Thank you, doctor, I replied, and walked out before she could say anything. Once outside the hospital, I exhaled deeply, trying to gather my thoughts as I walked down the street. Calm down. Everything will be fine. He's never going to find out. Dr. Wayne is gone for a few days, and he'll be back sooner than you think. Don't beat yourself up, I whispered. After walking aimlessly for 10 minutes, my restlessness reduced, and I turned around, deciding it was best to head towards the hospital now. Act normal. Don't allow them to find out. You know nothing about this. He threatened you, and you had no other option, I whispered under my breath, and I jumped out of the road when I saw a car darting towards me with great speed. What the? My voice died down when Stella stepped out. What's wrong? Has the Alpha dumped you? So fast? She demanded, and I turned around, trying to head towards another direction, but she blocked my path. What? Can't you speak? Yesterday you had balls, but now it seems like you have nothing left. Why are you walking? Can't the Alpha spare one of his little toys? Did the Alpha throw you out of the pack house? She demanded, pushing back my shoulder, and I fisted my hands, trying to suppress my anger. Stella, I do not want to fight. I've got important things to do. Please get out of my way, I pleaded softly, and she scoffed. And if I don't, are you going to throw me out of the pack? Where are the guards? I'm scared. She taunted, feigning fear, and I exhaled. Stella, please just let me be. Can't you leave me alone? I demanded, trying to suppress my anger, and she chuckled. You're nothing but a maid. How dare you talk to Stella this way? One of her friends interjected, and I scoffed. What is going on here? My body shook with fear as Alpha Xavier's voice rang out. I turned around in astonishment while Stella's face went pale. Alpha Xavier, we were just driving casually when Aurora stepped forward and refused to leave. Not a word from you, Aurora. What's going on? My jaws dropped as he silenced Stella. Her face turned red from rage, and I couldn't help but swallow. I was taking a stroll from the hospital when she blocked my path. I replied, and he turned to Stella, his eyes flashing with anger. You have a week of community service. The next time I see you trying to bully my Luna, I'll have you locked up for a month. He threatened, and she shivered with fear as she nodded and ran into the car with her minion. Thank you so much, Alpha. I muttered, bowing my head because Goddess knew my hands were trembling. Why are you walking outside? Didn't you see the driver? It's nothing. I just wanted to take a little stroll, I replied, and he stared at me for a moment before nodding. I'll head back to the hospital now. Thank you, Alpha. I turned around immediately. I was so close to melting, and if I spent any more time, only the Goddess knew what would happen. Aurora. Arriving at the hospital, I exhaled deeply with my hands presented to my chest. I forced a smile to my lips as I walked into the room. My smile disappeared the moment I saw Christabel sitting beside Mom. What are you doing here? I demanded, glaring at her with disgust, and Mom frowned. Aurora, Christabel came to check on me. Is there a problem? Mom demanded, and I scoffed. You need to leave now before I throw you out. Aurora, I'm so sorry. It was never my intention for you to find out. Everything I said that day was because I was high on crack. You're my best friend. I would never do such a thing to you. She pleaded, feigning sadness, and I scoffed. So what do you want? I want your forgiveness. I know it'll be damn hard for you to forgive me, but I'm willing to be patient. I'll wait. I was wrong and I should never have done such. But please forgive me and let me make things right. She pleaded, and I scoffed. And then what? You come visit me at the pack house? You become the friend of the Luna? You accompany me to gatherings? Isn't this why you're here? Would you be here if I wasn't made Luna? I demanded, and she went silent, her head bowed. Aurora. Don't call me that. You have no right to. You're nothing but a stranger to me now. Please leave. Don't make me call the guards. I replied, and she exhaled deeply. Please forgive me. She muttered softly before she walked out, and I rolled my eyes. Aurora, what's going on? Mom, it's a long story, but I'll tell you everything when you're okay. Just focus on your health for now. Forget about everything. I whispered, and she nodded softly. The door opened, and I turned around, hoping to see the doctor, but my eyes widened when Dad walked in, his eyes filled with disgust. What do you want? Are you here to see if she survived? Well, she did. So you have a problem with it? I demanded, standing in front of Mom as a shield. He took one glance at me before returning his gaze to Mom, who turned her back to him. Do not make life for Stella difficult because you're Luna. Don't get on her nerves because I won't sit back and watch. I have thrown your load out of the house. If you want her to keep living in the house I own, then you have to do as I bid. He retorted, and just as I was about to reply, Mom spoke. Haven't you done enough? What has this child done to deserve such cruelty from you? Why do you hate her so much? You brought home your mistress, yet I moved out of the main house for you, but it still wasn't enough. You turned us into maids and fed us with pennies, and now, when she does something good for herself, you're against it. Mom's voice was frail but firm, and a smile appeared on my lips. This was my first time hearing her talk back to Dad in years, and it felt so good. She is a bastard, and it's high time you told her who her real father is. He spat out, and she scoffed. Cheaters always think people are like them. She's your flesh and blood. If you don't want her, then it's fine. She's mine alone. Know you'll regret your own later. Mom replied, and she scoffed before walking away. She broke into tears, and I pulled her into my arms, trying to calm her down. It's fine, Mom. Please stop crying. I'm sorry. It's my fault. I didn't make the right decision. I should have married someone better and given you a good father. Mom, it's fine. If I come back into this world, I'll still choose you as my mom. You're more than enough for me. You don't need to apologize. I'll get you somewhere good to stay at. You don't have to worry about a thing anymore. I'm capable of taking care of us now, Mom. I replied, and she stared at me intently while I nodded, trying to assure her. I don't want to be a burden. Mom, you would never be a burden. You raised me with love, you sacrificed a lot for me, I'll forever be indebted, I replied, and she locked her hands with me, a tear rolling down her cheek. The doctor returned to put her to sleep, and I exhaled deeply as I watched her slowly drift to sleep. Everything will be fine, Mom. I'll take care of us, I whispered with a smile. I grabbed my phone and searched for Alpha Xavier's number. My heart was pounding heavily, and a voice in my head was urging me to stop. Call him. He's your husband. He can help you handle this. A voice whispered. Don't be a burden. Try to settle this yourself. Don't infuriate the Alpha. Another whispered, and I paused slightly while staring at the phone, still trying to decide on what to do. After a long pause and one stare at Mom, I decided to brace myself for the worst and call the Alpha. He picked on the second ring. Yes? His voice was cold, and for a moment I was speechless. I grabbed the hem of my dress while trying to form words in my head. Aurora. His voice came in anger, and I swallowed. Alpha? Is there a problem? Is the beta harassing you? He demanded, and I shook my head even though he couldn't see me. No, that's not it. What is it? I'm very busy, he said harshly, and I exhaled deeply. My mom will get discharged very soon, and her load has been thrown out of the house she lives in. I shouldn't be bothering you with things like this, but you're my only hope. I don't mind if you remove the rent from my... It had been taken care of. The driver would take you over to the new house when she gets discharged, he answered, and before I could say a word, he hung up. What just happened? Am I hallucinating? Is this real? I said aloud as I stared at my phone, checking the name over and over to see if I called the wrong number. I slumped on the chair as relief and shock coursed through my veins. I didn't know whether to smile or shout. So many things were running through my mind. Xavier. Alpha. What about the recent construction? Should we go ahead with the old plan? Louis muttered, and I glanced at the previous plan for a moment, frowning slightly. Have the architect draft a new plan, I instructed, and he nodded. So which house do you intend to give to Aurora? He demanded, and I rolled my eyes. Don't you have something to do? I can't talk and work, Alpha, he replied, and I glared at him. It's close to the pack house, the blue house that's 3 houses away. I answered, and he smiled. That's great. Look at you being a family man and taking care of a lady. Who would have thought you could be this good as a husband? I flashed him a glare, and he smiled faintly. Do you want to take part of the beta's job? I demanded, and he shook his head immediately. No, this is more than enough. Thank you, Alpha, he replied, and I rolled my eyes. Alpha, Miss Shirley is outside and she wants to see you. A guard muttered as he pushed the door open, and Louis concealed a smile while I rolled my eyes. Tell her I'm busy. She has been waiting for 20 minutes, and she said she's not leaving anything soon, he replied, and I exhaled deeply. Usher her in. I replied weakly, and the door widened while Shirley strutted in, dressed in a short red gown, high heels, and her face covered in makeup. Her blonde hair was pulled back. She was the ideal trophy girlfriend, but not for me. Alpha Xavier. Her tiny voice rang out as she made her way to my desk. I'll excuse you since you're busy, Louis muttered, even though I was signaling for him to stay. What do you want, Shirley? I'm very busy, I muttered as I opened a file, and she exhaled as she sat at the edge of my desk. Alpha Xavier, I saw the news, and I'm completely mortified and disappointed. You went for the beta's bastard? That's enough. Do not talk about my Luna that way, I snapped, my wolf on the edge and furious as he clawed and growled inside of me. Shirley was stunned and disgusted as she stared at me. Why? Why what? Why did you marry her? Don't tell me because you like her, because it's a lie. I'm not blind. You married her because of your position, she replied, and I scoffed. For someone who was extremely dumb, she proved to be smart for once. I do not need to give reasons for my actions, I retorted, and she shook her head. Why? I've always been by your side. I love you, Alpha Xavier. I've always loved you. I've always wanted to be your Luna, and I was ready to sacrifice everything for it. That's the problem. You're too desperate, Shirley, I replied, and she frowned. I could smell her pain in the air, and after a few seconds of silence, she exhaled. She might be your Luna, but I'm very sure about one thing. She would never be able to please you. I've seen her. She's completely different from what you like. She's not the first sexy woman you love. She's more of a weak, innocent maid, the type you despise greatly," Shirley muttered, and I frowned. "That's enough, Shirley. We had something for a while doesn't automatically make you my type. I know you, Alpha. I know you so well to be able to tell you that you'll never be able to touch her," she replied as she grabbed my tie, and I frowned. "I'm willing to ignore all these and we can go back to what we used to be. I like you so much, and although I'm sad that you married that maid, I know you wouldn't last together. I'm giving you a maximum of 5 years. You'll get tired of her presence," Shirley muttered, and I scoffed. "Shirley, what we had ended a long time ago. I'm not interested in you, and I hope you accept that and stop coming to bother me. If I ever wanted you, then I'd have married you. I'm married now, and it's improper to have you around me," I muttered as I pulled my tie and rose to my feet. I straightened my tie and walked towards the door. "Thank you for stopping by. It's time to leave," I muttered as I opened the door. "We would have made a great couple. It would be insane because 2 packs would be coming together. You made a great mistake settling for that maid without a name. I hope it's not too late when you realize it," she muttered and placed a kiss on my cheeks before walking out. I slammed the door immediately and returned to my seat with a frown. Thor, my wolf, was at the edge, and his anger was visible. He hated Shirley for no reason, and although I had tried several times to assure him that nobody was ever going to take the place of mate, he still loathed all the ladies around. "She's gone. You can relax now, Thor," I whispered, and he growled. "Her scent is still in the room. It's upsetting," he muttered, and I exhaled. "You need to start learning how to tolerate people. You can't act this way around Aurora," I muttered, and he growled. "Why? Do you like her?" he demanded, and I scoffed. "Heck no. We are married to her, Thor, and the world must see a happy couple. You need to keep your emotions in check, whether you hate her or not. Try to control yourself and don't struggle for supremacy. It'll drive me nuts," I whispered, and he slowly calmed down. "Thank you so much. There's nothing to be worried about, Thor. I would never love her. Not even a love potion can change my mind," I whispered softly. My mind already made up because the only woman I could ever love was gone, Aurora. I returned home when it was late. I made sure Mom was asleep before leaving, and I stopped halfway when I saw the Alpha, seated on the chair, glancing through a document. "Is there a problem?" he demanded coldly as he whipped his head up. I swallowed hard and shook my head. 2 buttons were undone, and he looked breathtaking and evil at the same time. Something about him made my heart thump heavily with fear. "No, Alpha," I replied as I forced my legs to move. I couldn't stop stealing glances at Hunsei. Guilt filled my body. Goddess knew I was terrified of him. "We have guests. 2 alphas would be spending the night here. Do not make anything obvious, and you would be spending the night in my room," he muttered when I reached the stairs, and I looked back at him. His jet-black hair was shining in the darkness, and I exhaled. "Yes, Alpha," I mumbled and continued my journey. I freshened up and changed into the pajamas and slumped on the bed, glancing at the war with my heart pounding. I was going to spend the night in his room. I know he wasn't going to touch me, but it was weird. I had never been alone with him for a long time or in a closed space, but I was going to spend the whole night in his room. Only the goddess can help at this point. I wish I had a wolf to talk to and calm me down. Gosh, it was all too much for me to handle. I jerked the moment a knock came on my door. "Yes. Dinner is ready. Luna and the guests are here," she muttered, and I nodded. "I'm coming," I replied, and glancing at myself in the mirror, I swallowed and decided to leave. "Don't be nervous. You're one happy couple," I whispered as I stepped into the dining room. "Honey," he muttered as he stood up and pulled the chair beside him out for me. I flashed him a soft smile. "Good evening, Alphas," I muttered, and one flashed back a smile while the other took a long glance at me. It left chills in my body, and I felt like hiding because it felt like he could see my soul with his eyes. "You look gorgeous, Alpha Xavier. I must confess you have great eyes." "Thank you, Alpha Adam. Baby, this is Alpha Adam and Alpha Lucas," he explained, and I gasped softly. Alpha Lucas was the alpha of the rival pack. It was evident that there was a silent enmity between both men. "Welcome to the Ravenclaw Pack, Alphas. I hope you enjoy your stay here. Please inform me if you need anything." I replied with a smile, and Adam chuckled. "Do you have a sister? You look too beautiful, and I'd like to have a great woman like you by my side." Xavier has changed drastically in a week. He barely smiles or speaks to us, but now he's a blabbermouth and he's grinning so wide it's blinding. Adam teased, and I bowed my head softly, placing my hair behind my ear. "So tell me, how did you stumble on this diamond? Is there any tip? Table manners, Alpha Adam," Xavier replied coldly, and Adam rolled his eyes. "We'll have this conversation after dinner," he muttered to me, and I smiled. We ate in silence, and I couldn't help but feel a lot of eyes on me. My head was bowed, and raising my head, I wasn't astonished to find Alpha Lucas staring at me. I swallowed hard as my skin crawled. My stomach sank, and the air was filled with an ominous feeling. I wasn't one to judge people easily, but there were a lot of dark things about Alpha Lucas. We finished dinner and moved to the sitting room, with Xavier and I sitting on one couch while they sat elsewhere. "So tell me, how did you meet?" Well, it was at the hospital. I was just a normal lady who was trying to save her mother's life, and then Xavier walked in like a knight in shining armor. He saved my mom's life and captured my heart, I explained, trying to stop my voice from quivering, and Adam smiled softly. "Wow, what a fairy tale. Maybe this is my cue to start visiting the Pack Hospital. It doesn't look like love to me. It could be an arrangement. You needed money. He needed a Luna." Lucas said after a long silence. He had a smirk on his face as he stared at Xavier, whose jaws were clenched. For a moment it felt like both men were having a silent confrontation, and I exhaled deeply when Lucas averted his gaze. "No, we're together because we love each other. People feel it's too fast, but then why wait for the world to end?" I said with a dry laugh. "So what about your wolves? Did they agree to the union? What about your mates?" he demanded with a dark smirk. For me," I stuttered and swallowed, wondering why Xavier left me to carry the whole burden when a word from him would be enough to silence Lucas. I rejected my mate a few hours before going to the hospital. I wanted to ask him for help when I found him with my best friend. It was heart-wrecking. Alpha Xavier was sent by the goddess because it all looks like a miracle. I explained, and Adam stared at me sadly. "So that was why you jumped at the Alpha's offer? You were very desperate, and it was a great deal. How much did he offer you? I know he's loaded, so he can offer a great amount," he whispered, and just as I was about to protest, Xavier rose to his feet. "Good night, Alphas. I heard it's bad for couples to stay out late when there are countless things that can be done behind closed doors," he replied, and placed his hand on my waist and pulled me away while I exhaled deeply. For a moment I was furious. Why didn't he interfere? Why did he wait until I was cornered? "Keep walking, not a word until we get inside the room. Alphas have very sharp ears," he whispered when my lips began to move and I bit back words, "Aurora." We stepped into the room, and my eyes widened when I found 2 beds. I gasped at how huge his room was, and for a moment words were stuck in my throat. I almost laughed at myself for being worried about spending the night when it was nothing big. "That's your bed, good night," he replied coldly as he let go of me and shut the door. I nodded and walked towards the bed. I fell on the bed slowly, and after admiring how dark and empty his room was, I grabbed the covers. "Good night," I whispered as I curled into a ball and began counting numbers in order to fall asleep. A few minutes later, my eyes failed to close. I turned around in the bed, occasionally glancing at Xavier, who was working. He sat on his chair with his laptop placed on the desk. I exhaled heavily and turned in the opposite direction, trying to force myself to sleep. Only Goddess knew how many minutes passed, but my eyes were still shut. I didn't want to move around too much in order not to attract his attention. It took a while, but I managed to fall asleep. Morning. Opening my eyes, I was stunned to find the room empty. I looked around, searching for the Alpha, and I exhaled deeply. Does he sleep at all? He slept after I had slept, and now the bed doesn't even have a trace that he was there. I rolled my eyes and jumped out of bed. I decided to head to my room and freshen up. I walked downstairs for dinner, and the first person my eyes landed on was Alpha Lucas. A cold chill ran down my spine, and I averted my gaze immediately. "Good morning, honey. I muttered as I flashed my brightest smile, and Xavier rose from his seat. He placed a kiss on my cheeks as he pulled me into his arms. "How was your night?" "I didn't wake you up because I knew you'd be exhausted," he whispers, and I smiled softly. "Thank you. I'll be heading to the hospital today," I replied as I sat down. "She will be discharged today? The house is ready. I'd like to join you in showing her around, but I have a lot of meetings to attend. My regards to her," he muttered, and I smiled. "I understand. I know you would move meetings if it was possible for you to. Just take care of yourself, and please don't overwork yourself," I replied, trying to sound concerned, and he nodded. "All right." We ate in silence with Alpha Lucas's gaze lingering on me, and I was halfway done with my meal when I rose up. "I'm leaving. I'll see you later," I muttered as I placed a kiss on his cheeks before dashing out. My heart was pounding heavily as I entered the car. It felt like Lucas came personally to see every loophole in the marriage. If they were enemies, why would Xavier house him? It was confusing. "Luna, we've arrived," the chauffeur announced, and I nodded, smiling softly as I stepped out. "Mom," I squealed with delight as I walked in on her, walking around slowly. I was smiling broadly as I exchanged pleasantries with the doctor, who was grinning. "She's good to go, Luna. I'll come over for her regular checkup. Her drugs are inside this bag and instructions on how to use them. Congrats, ma'am," she replied before leaving. I had to stop myself from jumping at her due to my excitement. I couldn't stop grinning as I led Mom outside. "Mom, I'm taking you to your new home. You don't need to worry about anything because I'm going to take care of you," I whispered, and she smiled at me. "Bless you, child. I'm thankful to the goddess that I have you," she muttered, and I smiled as I led her towards the car while a nurse carried her bag. She was stunned to see the car, and I urged her to go inside. Once inside, I held her hands as we drove towards the house. Only the goddess knew what Xavier had prepared, but my jaws dropped when I saw the house. It was just a few houses away from the pack house, and my eyes widened. For a moment, I remained in the car and stared at the building, trying to wake myself from this crazy dream, but it was real. It all felt too good to be true, and I didn't know when tears began spilling down my cheeks. "Luna, I'm okay," I replied, smiling immediately as I stepped out, avoiding eye contact with Mom. I was stunned to find a maid outside, smiling broadly as she helped Mom. "I'm Natalie, her personal maid," she announced, and my jaws dropped. "The Alpha wants you to be well taken care of, and I promise you I'll do my best," she continued, and I nodded with a smile. "Thank you so much." We were led into the house. It was furnished to taste, and it looked even better than that of my father. She showed us the 4 rooms available, and I couldn't help but gasp when I saw Mom's room. It was filled with everything you could think of: clothes, shoes, skincare, just name it and you'll find it. "This is too much," Mom whispered, and I placed my head on hers. "It's not, Mom. You deserve every nice thing. This is only the beginning. Mom, from now henceforth we'll have only good memories," I whispered, and she cupped my cheeks softly. "I bless the goddess for making me your mother. It's such a huge privilege," she muttered, and I smiled. My phone began ringing, and after dropping Mom on the chair, I pulled it out of my bag. It was an unknown number, and it baffled me. "Hello, who is this?" "Aurora." "What do you want, Theodore?" I demanded, anger coursing through my veins as I clutched the phone tightly. "I'm outside, and I want to see you. It's important," he replied, and I scoffed. "I don't give a fuck. Leave, I have nothing to say," I retorted. "I'll come inside to say it then," he threatened, and I exhaled deeply. "Fine, I'm coming outside, and I wouldn't spend more than 2 minutes," I muttered as I walked out of the door and headed to the gate. Theodore was standing outside the gate, his eyes filled with disappointment. "What do you want?" I demanded, folding my hands together as I rested on the gate, and he tried to move close to me, but I was quick to change my posture. "Aurora? It's Theodore. You're Theodore," he whispered, and I scoffed. "I don't have time, Theodore. I'm a very busy woman, so you've got an extra minute," I said coldly, trying to reframe myself from hitting him. I was furious inside of me. I felt like tearing his whole body to pieces and feeding him to rogues. "Aurora, you can't be with the Alpha. I'm your mate, and I'm yet to accept your rejection. I still love you, and I'm not yet ready to lose you," he muttered softly, and I stared at him for a moment with confusion. I waited patiently for him to take back those words and tell me it was some horrid joke, but he didn't, and I burst into laughter. You love me?" I asked, and he nodded, coming close. "I've always loved you, Aurora. What happened with Christabel was nothing but a temporary moment. You were just so occupied with Mom's illness, and you barely had time for me. I'm really sorry, Aurora," he whispered as he grabbed my hand, staring into my eyes intently. "And all the words you said that day, about your family not accepting me and me being your mistress?" I played along, my countenance gentle while my voice was frail. "It was all out of anger. My goddess-given mate, nobody would ever stop me from being with you. My family has no right to interfere in our lives. I love you, Aurora, and ever since you left, my wolf has turned its back on me. We miss you. I'm so sorry for everything that happened. Please forgive me." He whispered softly, rubbing my calms, and I stared at him gently. "Are you really serious? You want me to come back to you?" I questioned, and he nodded. "The alpha can't satisfy you. I'm here for you, Aurora. Christabel can never be like you. You've always been my peace, and I'm so sorry for cheating on you," he whispered as he placed his hands on my cheek. I felt disgusted, and it took a lot not to puke all over him. "What do you want now, Theodore?" I replied, and he smiled softly. "I want you. I know you can't leave the alpha now because the marriage is still young, but we can be together, we can plan our future together, and when we've gathered enough, we can elope from the pack, move to a new pack to start our lives without any disturbance," he explained, and I burst into laughter. "Theodore, please tell me this is a joke," I pleaded, and he shook his head. "Aurora, I'm your mate. I'm the only one who can satisfy you when you're in heat. Your body would reject the alpha's touch because you belong to me and me alone. I want you back, and I'm willing to take you being with the alpha as your way of getting even with me. The alpha can't satisfy you." "Says who?" Alpha Xavier's cold voice rang out, and I almost jumped in fright while Theodore stepped back, fear visible in his eyes. Alpha," I stuttered, and he locked gaze with me, making my brain shut down temporarily. "Alpha, you said I can't satisfy her. How do you know?" he demanded, hands folded as he took one long-hold glance at Theodore, who was shivering visibly. "Shh, she's my mate, Alpha. She still belongs to me," he replied, and I scoffed. "I rejected you, Theodore. I'm not yours," I retorted, and he scoffed. "I'm yet to accept your rejection, Aurora. You're still my mate," he pointed out, and I chuckled. "Whether she's yours or not, I'm capable of taking care of her. She's my Luna, and there's nothing that's ever going to change that." During the full moon, Theodore was still speaking when Alpha Xavier grabbed my cheeks, and to my astonishment, he placed a kiss on my lips. It was a fiery kiss. His tongue slipped into my mouth, and for a moment it was hard to tell whether he was trying to torture me or make Theodore jealous. He bit my tongue, making me shriek in his mouth, and after what seemed like a minute, he pulled back, leaving my face red. "I'm capable of taking care of the Luna. She's well fucked and satisfied, and even if she was trying to cheat, it wouldn't be the likes of you. You're way below standards. I'm not going to force you to accept the rejection, but the next time you appear in front of her, you'll leave with a limb," he warned, and without a word, Theodore turned around and dashed away. I was still trying to catch my breath and figure out what had happened. He has kissed me? Was it just to make Theodore jealous? Our deal says no contacts. Why? My lips were swollen and pinker. "Alpha. The kiss was nothing. I just did it to convince him. I do not want another doubting Thomas around my territory. Fix every problem you have without involving me," he retorted coldly, and I nodded while he turned around and walked away towards his car, which was a house away. "Xavier, you kissed her. You fucking kissed her," Louis shrieked as I entered the car, and I rolled my eyes. "It was to kick that bastard away. You seem extremely concerned about her. You're always around the corner to protect her," he pointed out, and I exhaled deeply. "That's because I'm protecting my secret. There's no telling who could find out and use it against me. That bastard Lucas cornered her," I replied, and he burst into laughter. "I know you can't fool him easily. So do you have plans to do anything for now? It's almost 2 weeks. Time to check for the baby." "What if she's not pregnant?" he demanded. "Then we try again, and if she doesn't get pregnant, I'll have another alternative and make the world think she's pregnant. It would make it easier to divorce later. I wouldn't want her to get attached to my child. I answered, and Louis burst into laughter. Your child? It belongs to both of you. What's the news about the new construction? Is the architect done with the new drawing? I switched topics, and he exhaled deeply. He's still working on it. We have a little problems at the borders. There has been a recent attack where 3 rogue ambushed 2 soldiers. Only 1 survived, though. He explained, and I frowned. Send my condolences to his family, and give the guard a befitting burial. Make sure everyone honors that day. Let's head to the border. I replied, and he nodded, entering the lane that led to the borders. We drove in silence, and I glanced around, frowning heavily. This was what I was most afraid of. Rogues attacking, and me being unable to protect my people. I arrived at the borders, and for 2 hours, all I did was go in circles, trying to catch a whiff of their scent, or they managed to enter the pack, but I found nothing. Xavier, I think it's best we head back to the pack. You have an occasion to attend today. He whispered, and for a moment I clenched my fists. Thor was raging inside me. He was restless, and all he wanted now was to hunt down those bastards and shred them to pieces. Calm down, Xavier. Please try to calm down. Louis noticed that my anger was escalating, and he placed a hand on my shoulder. Fine. Let's head back. I replied gruffly as I took one last glance around, then turned away. The journey was filled with silence and anger. Thor was straining to take control, but I held him in check. He was clawing at me, but the pain was nothing compared to what the family of my guard must be feeling. Thinking about his family only made me more furious. Everything is going to be all right. Louis muttered, and I grunted. We arrived at the pack house, and I dashed inside while Louis parked the car. Inform Aurora that there will be a party tonight. I mind-linked and cut off the mind link before he could ask any question. I slammed my door shut and locked the bolts, exhaling deeply as I laid on the bed, running my hands through my hair. We need to get those bastards. They must never be allowed to live. Thor growled, and I couldn't agree more. Their scents are masked. I can't find them even if I tried. They're in the mountains. We should attack them. Thor growled, and I wish it was as easy as that. We can't attack without knowing anything about them. What if they're more than the soldiers? Rogues are feral. They are extremely dangerous. I replied, and Thor kept growling while I shut my eyes, trying to calm our raging nerves. Nothing was working, and at this point the only thing that could help us was either having intimacy or going on a run. The thoughts of getting pleasure made Thor excited, but I kicked against it. I had never had any woman in the pack house, and I was too weak to go to the club. A little rest would calm everyone down, Thor. We can go to the club another day. I whispered as I pulled my shirt off. I shut my eyes and gave myself a much-needed sleep. Hours later, I rose from the bed feeling better and more relaxed. Thor was no longer at the edge, and I exhaled deeply as I headed into the bathroom. Walking out 20 minutes later with a towel wrapped around my waist, I glanced at the time. There were still 2 hours before the main event. I wore a pair of shorts and a top before I went out for my dinner. Aurora was sitting on the table already, and she bowed her head as I took my seat. We ate in silence, and for a moment, I could but help but glance at her. Thank you so much for the house. It means a lot to me. I'll repair you fit everything. That's enough. I wouldn't want the maids to overhear such. I cut her off coldly. I'm so sorry, Alpha. I continued eating, and after a few minutes we were done. You have 20 minutes to get prepared. I muttered as I headed to my room to get dressed. I got dressed in a black tuxedo and matching pants. I didn't need to spend any time on my hair as it was a low cut. I walked down, fixing my wristwatch, and I paused for a moment when I saw Aurora downstairs, glancing through her phone, dressed in a short black gown. It was an armless gown, and her cleavage was slightly visible. For a minute, my throat went dry, and I swallowed hard. I blinked rapidly, and when she raised her head up, I averted my gaze immediately, pretending to fix the watch while wondering how she managed to know the color of dress I was going to wear. Oh, I didn't know you would be wearing black today. It's just my favorite color. I can go change. It felt like she could read my mind, and I shook my head. It's fine. We are a couple, and it's only right we wear matching outfits. And moreover, we don't have time. I replied as I grabbed her hands and led her to the car. Aurora. We walked into the party with lots of alphas coming over to greet Xavier. I smiled and hugged a few. Aurora, you should join us at the table. I know you love your alpha, but you don't need to stick to him always. A lady teased, and I chuckled before staring at Xavier, who nodded softly. I'll bring her back safely. You don't have to worry about a thing, she whispered, and we burst into laughter as she led me away. I'm Lisa, the Luna of the Crescent Moon Pack, she introduced. It's lovely to meet you, I muttered, and she led me to a space that was filled with other ladies. Ladies, let's welcome the latest Luna, Aurora. I'm sure you all know her, she announced, and they nodded, waving at me, while a few gave me haughty looks. It's an honor to meet you all, I muttered before sitting. There's this Luna's festival coming up. I need to prepare adequately for it. We all know who the first is going to be, but this year, I want to try my best and get the second position. A woman whispered, and I furrowed my brows, wondering what festival they were talking about. Shirley, it's an honor to have you here. You look dashing. I still can't believe you've never gone under a knife. Your skin is so lovely. It would take years for me to achieve anything close to that. Please, have your seat. The women scurried around, flattering someone, and I turned around, wondering who it was. She was dressed in a pink short gown with high heels. She had a lot of makeup on her face, high cheekbones, and blue eyes. She smiled at everyone while exchanging pleasantries, and when her eyes rested on me, they turned cold. The smile on my lips slowly disappeared as she glanced at me with contempt. A cold chill went down my spine as I wondered what the problem was. Shirley, this is Aurora, the Luna of Alpha Xavier, one lady explained, and she scoffed, rolling her eyes. Yes, I've heard of her, the beta's bastard, she replied, and my jaws dropped. Everyone went silent for a few minutes. Oh, Shirley, we were just talking about the upcoming festival, a woman muttered, and the rest nodded. Oh, someone new would be joining us this year, Stella. She's the legitimate daughter of the beta, Shirley muttered, flashing a smile at me while Stella pulled out a chair, flashing me a triumphant smile. Oh, it's nice to have you join us. This year's festival has got lots of competition already. I wonder how it's going to be. Lisa muttered, and Shirley burst into laughter. Competition? Where? I'll be crowned as the first, for the third time in a row. There's no competition because I can't find a suitable competitor. Aurora, don't tell me you're trying to enter the competition. I'll give you a word of advice. Don't you dare, because I would crush you. Her voice was filled with spite, and I glanced at her calmly. Oh, please, she wouldn't dare. All she does is sweep the floors. She's as dumb as a fish. Even if she enters the competition, she wouldn't stand a chance in the top 20. Stella kicked, and I bowed my head, trying to control my emotions. I decided to ignore them and focus my mind on other important things. Really? What did you do all your life? Scrub floors? How could the daughter of the beta do such things? Oh, you're the illegitimate one, Shirley mocked. I still wonder why Alpha Xavier would choose someone like you over Shirley. Shirley is a trained Luna from birth. She was born to be a Luna, but you're unworthy of being in this room. A woman gestured, and I smiled softly. It became crystal clear the reason for Shirley's hatred was because I was married to Xavier. But rest assured, I'm sure the Alpha would toss her aside. He would see that she's nothing but a liability to him. Another woman added, and I fondled my fingers, trying very hard to stop their words from having any impact on me. Shirley, you don't have to worry about a thing. There are numerous Alphas out there who would die to have you. Alpha Xavier is going to realize his mistake later, and I hope it wouldn't be too late for him. Oh, please. Thank you so much for your words, but I'm over Xavier already. What we had was just for the fun of it. I rejected his marriage request because I still have time. I believe it's best to enjoy my prime rather than rush into a marriage that turns sour, she replied, scrolling through her phone. You're so smart. Alpha Xavier should have given you some time. I'm sure he's going to regret not waiting for you. They were nothing but ass lickers, and I felt disgusted to be in their midst. It was nice spending time with you ladies. I have to leave now. I have a date waiting for me, she announced, implying that she had moved on, and they gasped, staring at her with admiration. I sighed softly as she and Stella left. It felt nice to have breathing space again. "Can you tell me about this festival?" I turned to Lisa, who stared at me with shock. "Wow, you really want to compete against Shirley? It's a festival that consists of little activities like acting, horse riding, baking, and fencing. If you ace all 4 with great points, then you're the winner. But nobody has aced all with great points, except Shirley. She has been the winner ever since she began participating," she explained, and I nodded softly. "Don't try it. The festival is in 2 weeks, and it's going to be hosted in this pack, meaning you're going to be the host. You wouldn't have the time to prepare for any of these," he explained, and I exhaled deeply. "I'll try my best, Lisa. It's better to than not try at all," I replied with my fists clenched, and she smiled at me. "If you insist, I'll give you a list of the best tutors for all these activities. I hope you can get them to teach you, though, because it'll be quite difficult." She mumbled, and I was confused. "Why?" "Oh, nothing much, just that the best fencing tutor is enemies with Alpha Xavier. The best baker won't accept you because she used to go after Alpha Xavier, but he rejected her publicly. She has been in hiding ever since it happened." My jaws dropped as I listened to her words. "What about the rest?" "They're from the pack of Alpha Xavier's rival," she explained, and I scoffed, smiling bitterly. "So in one word, my husband would be the reason for my failure?" I interpreted, and she nodded with a sad smile. "Aurora." I stared at the names written on a piece of paper as I had breakfast. Ever since we returned, I've been torn between giving up on the festival and talking to Alpha Xavier. "What?" he demanded, and I raised my head up in shock. "What? Yes, Alpha," I replied, and he frowned. "You have something on your mind, say it. I can scent your restlessness," he retorted, and I exhaled deeply. "There's a festival coming up for Luna's." I paused, waiting to see any reaction, but got none. "I want to participate in it. That's if you're okay with it," I muttered, and he nodded. "Go ahead. But I'm terrible at most of the sports, and I wish to get tutors. Here is a list of the best tutors," I muttered as I passed the piece of paper to him. He took one glance, and I saw his jaws harden, and he gripped the paper tightly before he slowly let go. "All right, instruct the driver to take you to the pack," he replied, and my eyes almost popped out. "What? Really?" I demanded, and he pushed himself up, dropped his napkin, and walked out without a word. "Gosh, he's such a cold demon," I whispered under my breath as I continued eating. After my meal, I paid Mom a visit before leaving the pack in his black Bentley. I glanced through my phone, trying to get news about everyone, and their performances left me stunned. I couldn't believe there could be people who were this good. "Wow," I muttered for the umpteenth time, glancing at their achievements. Our first stop was the horsemaster. His name was John, and arriving at his ranch, I was stunned. According to the news, his ranch produced the best horses, and I wasn't stunned to find more than 5 women outside the horse ranch. We were allowed inside, and I gasped as I stepped out of the car. Horses filled everywhere, beautiful stallions and little ones too. It was like another world entirely, and while I stared, I didn't take notice of the horse dashing towards me. "Luna?" I heard the driver and a few people yell, and just as I turned around, I was astonished to see a huge white stallion coming head-on towards me. My legs were rooted to the spot, and for a moment my brain shut down. I shivered as I stared at the horse, unable to move as they screamed at me. A few ranch boys were seen behind, running after the horse, but nobody was close enough to save me. I resigned to my fate, knowing I would sustain a massive spine injury, if not death. I shut my eyes tightly and waited patiently for death, but to my astonishment, I heard the loud neighing of the horse as dust rose around. I opened my eyes slowly to see dust around, and the horse sprawled on the floor, its color stained. I heaved a sigh of relief as I knelt before the horse, unable to decide on whether to smile or cry. "Wow, you didn't lock me," I whispered, and to my surprise, it lowered its head before me, further letting me pat its head. "What's going on? Who let Sly out? Are you trying to kill people?" John yelled at the ranch boys as he stepped out. "I apologize, Luna. This is a rough stallion." He was still peeking when he paused as his eyes landed on my hands. "Luna, can you please step away slowly? Sly isn't one that should be around. He is very rough and he has killed numerous ranchmen," he explained calmly, and I nodded, standing up slowly. It felt insane, but there was no single fear inside of me even as I stepped away from Sly. It's an honor to have you here, Luna. Aurora, just call me Aurora, I'm from the Ravenclaw pack, I explained, and his eyes turned cold immediately. I'm sorry, but I can't be of help to you. Please leave, he announced coldly, and I exhaled deeply. Please, at least hear me out, I pleaded, and he shook his head. You want me to train you for the coming festival. I'm sorry, but I can't, and I'm fully booked. I'm Shirley's trainer, he replied, and I sighed heavily. How about one of your ranch? They're fully booked too. We can't help you, Luna, he replied, and I smiled. It's fine, I understand, but I'd like to make one request. Go on, Luna. I want a horse, Sly, I muttered, and his eyes widened with shock. What? Alpha Xavier would kill me if he finds out I have a feral horse to his woman. I'm sorry, but I can't. John replied with a bow, and I shook my head. I'm insisting as Luna that I want this horse. If you can't train me, the least you can do is give me a good horse, I retorted, and he sighed. Fine, I'll give you a horse, but you'll need to come into the stables to check them out. No, I want Sly. My mind is made up, John. There's nothing you can say to convince me, I announced, and for a moment his face turned ashen. But I want Sly, John, I replied, and he exhaled deeply with a faint nod. I'll send him over to the Ravenclaw pack, Luna, he answered after a brief pause, and I smiled softly. Thank you so much, John, I replied before I turned around. Now to the next stop, the Drama King, I announced to the guard as I reached the car. Aurora. Excuse me, where is Vivian? I heard Matteo, the Drama King, ask as he looked around. He was dressed in a stylish suit and pants. It was colored red, and on his face was light makeup. His long hair was styled into curls, and he could pass for a lady. It took nothing to deduce that he was gay. I knew he was going to be on a movie set today, and I watched from afar as he scolded the actors. You need to put in emotions. Make it known that the woman you die for was just killed, have a lot of regret. Ask why they took her and not you. He swung his hand around dramatically as he said those words, and I understood where he got the title from. Cut! Cut! That was good. Take 5 and don't be late, he announced as he grabbed a tissue and began cleaning off the sweat on his face. Matteo, hello, I called softly as I walked towards him. Fans are to keep away, he stated without sparing me a glance, and I smiled softly. Matteo, I need your help, please, I continued as I tried to catch up with his long strides. Security? What did I say about letting the fans come close? Kick her out, he ordered, dismissing me with his hands, and I chuckled. I'm not a fan, I announced, and he paused. He turned around to stare at me for a moment. I could see that his pride was wounded, and it was the perfect opportunity for me. But I'm Aurora, and I'm a Luna, and I want you to be my tutor for the upcoming Luna Festival, I said hurriedly as he began tapping his feet on the ground. He took one long glance at me, stepped closer, and grabbed my hair softly. No, he announced as he let go of my hair and turned around. But why? What is the problem? I demanded, and he stopped, making me do the same behind him. Because you're not drama material. You look awful. Your acting skills would be terrible too, and you're Luna. You're spoiled, stuck up, and hard to command. All in all, honey, you're not cut for acting. If you're performing against Shirley, you have 0 chances of winning, he replied without stuttering, and although it hurt, it made me even more determined to take on Shirley. Are you saying you're a bad tutor? I demanded, and he frowned. Honey, I just said that you're the bad one here, he replied, and I scoffed. You're the Drama King. As the best, you should be able to turn even a dog into a horse if you so please. You should make your student unbeatable. If you can't do something like that, I don't think you should be called the Drama King. Shirley is a natural, but you're a legend. You can take her out with just one student if you're determined. When I was coming over, I thought I would be coming over to see some drama god, but I was wrong. You're nothing but a movie director. I'm so disappointed for thinking so highly of you, I replied with a straight face. I turned around immediately and began walking out. Please stop me. Please stop me, I whispered, pleading desperately to the goddess, and just as I was about to give up, I heard his voice. Goddess knew I couldn't remember the last time I was this happy. Wait. I tried very hard to conceal my excitement as I walked towards him. What? I demanded, folding my hands together as I averted my gaze. Fine, I'll be your trainer. I've got a few conditions, and let me tell you, I'm not cheap," he announced, and I broke into a smile. "Yes, your terms would be met, and I promise you, you won't regret this." I squealed, and he rolled his eyes. "Oh, I'm regretting this already," he muttered under his breath, and I giggled. "Thank you so much. Can I have your number so we would be able to discuss your schedule and have to go about it?" I asked, and he nodded before he handed me a personal card. "Call me," he replied before walking away, and I fisted my hands in happiness. 1 down, 2 to go, I whispered as I headed back to the car. "So where are we heading to now, Luna?" "To the fencing master," I replied, and he nodded. Within 30 minutes, we arrived at his house. It was a large mansion, and after stating my reason for visit, I was allowed into the house. I was still admiring the house when he stepped out, looking cold and handsome, and it made me understand how he managed to be an enemy of Xavier. "Hello. I know who you are, and I'm not helping you. Leave," he replied, and without a word, he turned around, and my eyes widened with shock as I wondered what had just happened. "Honey," I heard a familiar voice, and turning around, I was stunned to see Shirley stepping out of her car. She walked over, and they both kissed, smiling happily. I was frozen as I wondered what was going on. "Aurora, it seems like you're trying to get my boyfriend to help you win against me, but let me assure you, you're never winning. You don't stand a chance against me. I'll join you inside, babes. Give me a few minutes," she muttered, and he nodded, leaving us. "You think getting Mateo would help you? John isn't for you. Neither would Julia. So stop wasting your time. It's better to quit now while you still can," she whispered with a smirk, and I scoffed. "I don't give up easily. Are you scared? You do know if I get more tutors I'll be able to beat you. Is that why you're trying to make me quit?" I demanded, and she burst into laughter. "Oh, please, I can beat you with my eyes closed and without putting effort." "Fine, enroll for the festival. You're going to end up leaving with your tail in between your legs. That's if you have any." She mocked as she turned around, leaving as she walked into the house. Aurora. Driving out of the house, the brakes were suddenly slammed as the tires screeched. I jerked forward, my hair covering my face as my heart almost jumped out of my chest. "I'm so sorry, Luna," James pleaded, and I slowly moved the hair out of my face. "What happened? Someone suddenly jumped in front of the car. I'm hoping I didn't hit her," he replied, and I frowned. "Let's go check on her," I replied as I stepped out of the car immediately. I heaved a sigh of relief when I saw a lady standing outside. "Are you okay? I'm so sorry. Please pardon me," I pleaded as I grabbed her hand, trying to see if she was injured. She didn't say a word, just shook her head. "Are you sure? You look horrified. Should we go to a hospital? I really apologize for my driver's recklessness," I pleaded, and she shook her head. "Are you lost? Do you need help? Would you like me to drop you off somewhere, or can I get you something to eat?" I demanded, and she exhaled. "We can eat." Her voice was extremely nice, and all I could feel was pity. Someone this beautiful and angelic on the street. "Please, come in," I whispered as I pulled the door open and she stepped inside. "Can you go to the nearest restaurant or cafe? Any place you see with good food," I replied, and he nodded. "Can you tell me more about yourself? Is there anything I can help with? What about your family?" I asked, and she stared outside without a word. "I understand if you don't want to speak with me," I muttered, and 5 minutes later we arrived at a restaurant. We both stepped out, and I led her into the restaurant. I handed out the menu to her, waiting patiently for her to speak, but she didn't say a word. "We'll have 2 of your finest dishes," I instructed the waiter, who nodded before leaving. "Can you please speak to me? I'm trying to help you out. I know you might be scared and all, but I mean no harm," I muttered, and the waiter brought over to the food. I smiled as I began eating, watching her as she ate slowly with graceful poise. It felt strange that she was this beautiful and graceful, yet she was on the streets. "Can you tell me more about yourself? You even have better tank manners than me, and I'm a Luna. How did you end up on the streets?" I asked, and she glanced at me without a word. "Do you have problems with your speech? I can help you find a good doctor. You know, I'd like to help you, but unfortunately I can't force you. It seems like you don't need my help." I muttered softly, and I continued eating without a word. She stopped eating, and pushed the plates away slowly. I glanced at her, but didn't say a word. "Why would you help me when you're the one who needs my help?" she demanded, and I frowned as I stared at her with astonishment. "What are you talking about?" "I said you need my help," she replied, and I was taken aback. "Excuse me, I'm trying to help you because my chauffeur almost hit you," I replied, and she chuckled softly. "You need my help, Aurora," she replied, and my eyes almost popped out. "Who are you? How do you know my name, and what do I need your help with?" I asked, my heart pounding heavily, and she smiled. "You need to look at your face right now. You're extremely pale," she teased. "Take a chill pill, Aurora. I'm Julia," she announced, and my eyes almost popped out. My hands trembled with great shock, and for a few seconds I froze in place. What is going on?" I demanded, my voice almost inaudible. "I'll break it down to you, but please don't faint. It would scare the shit out of me," she said with a smile. "I heard you were searching for me because you wanted to enter the Luna contest, so I decided to come see you myself," she replied, and it took a lot of processing for everything to become clear. "But why?" "Because I wanted to see you first. I've heard rumors of Xavier being married to some lame lady, and I must say, it's true. You're far from being a Luna, but I don't care," she replied, making it hard to tell if it was a subtle shade or not. "So, are you going to help me?" I asked, holding my breath, and she smiled. "Let's hear your side. Why do you want me to help you?" she replied, folding her hands as she rested back. "So I can beat someone who is looking down on me." I replied. She shrugged. "Surely. She's a pro. Do you think you've got what it takes to beat her?" she asked, and I nodded. "I'm ready to do my best." "Your best isn't enough. I'm ready to do everything to beat her," I replied, and she nodded. "Fine, I'll help you." Victory tasted weird, and I couldn't help but ask, "Why are you helping me, after the ugly inside between you and Xavier?" I didn't know how to break it down to her. "Oh, please, it was 3 years ago. I've lived in secret because I wanted to run my pastry cafe without being bothered. If my cafe gets exposed to the internet, it would complicate things for me," she replied, and I nodded. "You're following your passion. I envy you," I whispered softly, and she rolled her eyes. "Bring Luna doesn't restrict you. It makes you able to do anything you want, although lots of tongues would wag," she replied, and I nodded. "Thank you so much. Words can't describe my gratitude. You just made my day memorable. You're not bad either. I think I like you a bit, but it won't stop me from being harsh when I start training you," she replied, and I burst into laughter. "I'm more than ready to take on anything, Master," I teased, and we both burst into laughter. "Xavier, I can't believe Aurora wants to participate in the festival. Why didn't you stop her?" Louis demanded, and I frowned. "Why should I stop her?" I retorted, and he exhaled as he sat on the chair. "You know she doesn't stand a chance beside Shirley, right? Shirley has won twice in a row. What makes you think Aurora would beat her?" he demanded, and I scoffed. "I'm not concerned about it. She's free to do whatever she likes," I replied, and his eyes almost popped out. "So you're saying you're fine with your wife getting humiliated? Is that really what you want to do?" he demanded, and I rolled my eyes. "Need I remind you, she's just a contracted wife? She should have all the fun she can now, because I'm sure my offspring will be visible very soon," I replied, and he smiled softly. "I can't imagine what Aurora must be going through. I would die if I should be with a man like you. You've been with me for years and you're still alive. That must be a miracle," I replied, as I continued signing on the documents before me. "I can't imagine what she's going to go through, because Shirley would surely humiliate her, not because she deserves it, but because of you. And are we going to talk about all the tutors she went out to meet? I doubt if anyone would agree to help her. Julia, of all people, would never work with her. I doubt if she'll find her," Louis muttered, and I rolled my eyes. "If you're so concerned, why not train her in horse riding and fencing? After all, you're so good," I replied absent-mindedly. "Really? If you permit me, then that would be great," he announced, and I exhaled deeply, nodding softly. "Can we focus on business?" I demanded, and he frowned. "Isn't your Luna supposed to be more important than business? Moreover, our pack is hosting the event. I've got it taken care of. Everything will be adequately prepared for," I answered, and he stared at me with a smile. "You're just an amazing man with a black heart." He jested, and I rolled my eyes. We pushed thoughts of Aurora aside and began discussing work. We worked for hours, and rising up to stretch later, I was stunned to see it was dark outside. "It's late already. When are you leaving?" Louis demanded, and I checked my clock. "It's almost 8. You can head home. I'll sleep here tonight," I replied, and he shook his head. "No, you're married now. I don't think it's proper," he replied, and I rolled my eyes. "Fine, we'll continue tomorrow and be prepared to work non-stop," I warned, and he burst into laughter. We both walked outside to see Beta Darren heading out too. "Alpha," he muttered, bowing his head, and I grunted a reply. "How is everything in the house, Alpha? I heard Aurora is planning to participate in the Luna Festival. Surely it must be a lie, right? After all she knows how to do is scrub floors and wash. I can assure you that even if she gets the best tutors in the whole world, she's no match for those who were trained from birth," he announced with a chuckle, and I sneered. "It seems like you have so much spare time on your hand, Darren. So rather than work now, all you do is involve yourself in gossip like a lady. Is the job allocated to you too small? Should I increase your workload?" I inquired with a raised brow, and he shook his head. "No, I'm sorry, Alpha. I happened to overhear the conversation when I was having my lunch break. Maybe you need a lunch break. I want the pack's yearly report on my desk by the end of tomorrow," I announced, and walked away with Louis, who was grinning. "Now that is how you answer assholes like him," he squealed as we parted ways after a brief handshake. Driving home, the street was lit and filled with a few people strolling. My eyes caught sight of a couple strolling, and for a moment, I wondered how nice it must be. "You can take a stroll with Aurora later," Thor suggested, and I scoffed. "It's never happening. Not now, not in my next life. Never, Thor. Stop getting crazy ideas," I replied, and he growled at me. I drove into the house and headed inside. The maids were just setting the table, and I grunted as they bowed their heads while greeting. 20 minutes later, I walked down, feeling refreshed and hungry. Once served, I dug into my food, ignoring Aurora, who was doing the same across the table. We ate in silence, and just when she finished, I cleared my throat. "I have something to tell you," she muttered, and I paused. "I met Julia today. She agreed to be my coach, and I just wanted to inform you I'll use my mom's house because I know you might be uncomfortable with her presence." She was fondling her fingers as she said these words, and I could sense her fear and nervousness. "It's fine. You can use this place." "I don't have a problem," I replied, and she stared at me with a smile. "Thank you so much." She smiled softly, and I rose up. I froze when I got to the steps as I remembered Louis. "You should prepare for Louis. He's coming tomorrow to discuss his schedule with you. He has offered to be your coach for fencing and horse riding," I announced, and her eyes widened with shock. Much to my astonishment, she ran into my arms and pulled me into a tight hug. I stood there, frozen, unable to react for a few minutes as her scent filled my nostrils, making my body shudder involuntarily. When I finally got a hold of myself, I cleared my throat, and she pulled away immediately, leaving an awfully empty feeling in my stomach. "I'm sorry. Please forgive me," she muttered, her head bowed as she apologized. "Don't ever repeat this," I replied coldly and turned around hastily. "Aurora, it was 2 days after I had stupidly thrown myself at Xavier, and up till now I still tried my best to avoid him. It was quite hard, but I survived without having direct contact with him. Julia was coming over today, and I was nervous as hell. It was a Saturday, and it didn't look like Xavier would be going out anytime soon, and it got me even more worried. What if he's waiting just so he can see Julia? What if she gets pissed?" Several thoughts ran through my head, and now it dawned on me how bad it was to invite my husband's ex-friend over. "Please take over, goddess," I whispered as I heard the door opening. I rose to my feet immediately with a nervous smile on my face. "It's nice to have you here. Welcome," I announced, and she broke into a smile. "Oh, this house, how I've longed to be here, but now it's just some plain house to me." She smiled softly, and I played with my fingers, unable to decide on the type of answer to give. "Do you want a tour of the house? I'd be more than willing." "Oh, please, I'm here for business. Let's head to the kitchen. You've got a lot to learn and very little time." She pointed out, and I nodded, heaving a sigh of relief. For 3 hours, we were busy in the kitchen, and all she did was teach me about ingredients, their uses, and the results in excess, moderate, and small quantities. She was so detailed and patient with me, going over the ingredients repeatedly so I could catch up. "This is so exhausting," I muttered, and she chuckled. "Wait until you start baking. It feels like hell. That'll be all for today, but be rest assured that tomorrow will be harder," she explained, and I sighed with relief. "Oh, thank you so much. It's fine. I need to find a hotel. That's why I'm leaving early," she explained, and I frowned. "I intend to stay in this pack till the end of the festival," she replied, and I gasped. "Oh, please allow me to find you a place to stay." I felt guilty in a way, and she chuckled. "Oh, please, I can take care of myself, while you, on the other hand, should focus on learning," she advised, and I nodded. "Thank you so much," I whispered as I began leading her out. When we arrived at the sitting room, and to my dismay, Xavier was sitting and reading a newspaper. For a moment, I froze and turned to look at Julia, who had a smile on her face like it was nothing. "Long time no see, Xavier. Congratulations on your wedding," she muttered, and he nodded. "It's been a while, Julia. How is your cafe?" he replied, and she chuckled. "Doing well, thank you," she replied, and he nodded while we walked outside. I couldn't help but sigh with relief. It was awkward, but it went better than I had ever imagined. "I'll see you later," she announced, and I waved at her as she entered her car. I watched in silence as she drove away and returned back to the house. I had an hour to dress up before meeting up with Matteo, so I hurried inside to freshen up and get dressed. "I'm off to see Matteo at the studio," I announced, and he nodded without a word. Arriving at the studio, I couldn't help but smile as I looked around. Being an actress would be nice, but then it wasn't as easy and smooth as it looked. "You're here. Your fashion is terrible. I hope to rub off my intelligence on you before we end our training," he muttered, and I smiled. "Now tell me, what can you portray best? What scene can you act so well it's almost like your daily life?" he demanded, and I exhaled deeply. "I can act as the poor maid with only a sick mother," I replied, and his eyes were filled with excitement. "Good, show me something, anything. Make me feel your pain, make me see myself in you, and if possible, make me cry," he urged, and I smiled softly. All I did was remember how Dad had treated me a month ago. Slowly, I fell to my knees, my eyes blurry with tears. "Please, please, Mom needs the medications or she'll die. Please, I'm ready to work for the next 5 years if that's enough payment. Please," I whispered, crawling on the ground like there was an invisible man standing before me. I rose to my feet after I was done, and for a moment, Matteo was speechless. "Wow. Yeah, you are so drama material," he squealed, and I smiled. If only he knew this was only a fraction of my life. "Now I've made my findings about the festival, and your scripts would be given to you a day before the main event, and on that day it'll be collected an hour before you perform. Words would be displayed on the screen for the spectators to see if you make any mistake," he replied, and I nodded. "So now, the theme of this year's drama is the life of a wretched maid. You would ace the role completely, but I need to train you for the trickiest parts. Wretched maids are not just wretched, they experience emotions the rich can't experience. They experience sadness, envy, fear, happiness, no matter how little, and above all, love," he explained, and I nodded, smiling faintly. This was nothing but the truth. I had experienced love for a while, even though it turned into something bitter. "Now let's go over this again. You'll act like a maid who is in love. You'll act like a maid who just lost her love. And then you'll act like a maid who is envious of her boss's life. You would grieve about your misfortune and wonder why the goddess would be partial in her judgment," he explained, and I nodded with a smile. These were emotions I had felt previously. It was just like telling me to open wounds that hadn't healed up completely, and it felt nice to be able to use my weakness in such a way. Maybe, just maybe, I had high chances of winning against Shirley in acting. "Aurora, are you sure you can do this?" Mom asked, and I nodded with a smile. "Mom, everything will be fine. Whether I win or lose, it's fine," I replied, and she smiled softly. "It's nice to see you do something. I've watched you bake, act, and horse ride these few weeks, and I'm pleased that you're doing something you want to do," she whispered, and I smiled. "I'm glad you're happy, Mom. Let's hurry. I need to get settled in and see Julia before it starts." I explained, and she nodded as we walked out. We drove to the hall where it was all starting, arriving at the location. I couldn't help but gasp as I saw the number of people assembled. Hundreds of cars were parked around, and people of different ages strutted around, leaving me shocked. This wasn't just a small festival, it was one that garnered great attention, and I couldn't help but feel nervous as I walked into the hall. She's the wife of Alpha Xavier. I can't believe she's competing with Shirley. She doesn't stand a chance. Shirley has been known ever since she was born. I heard she's the beta's bastard. They whispered, and I shut my eyes, wishing there was a way I could stop myself from hearing them. We all took our seats round a huge field, and all I could feel was tremors round my body. It felt like I was before the whole world, and I couldn't help but wonder how Alpha Xavier managed to stand in the field and welcome everyone. Goddess knew I'd die of nervousness. My palms began sweating, and just when I was about to leave, Julia walked towards my seat. "You look like shit. Are you sure you can do this?" She teased after greeting Mom, and I exhaled deeply. "I don't think I can. Fencing in front of this huge number of people is insane. I don't stand a chance against Shirley." I was speaking very fast, and she smiled, grabbing my hand softly. "Relax. You don't have to be nervous. If Shirley can do it, then you can do it as well. Don't give up now. It'll make Xavier feel humiliated." She muttered, and I rolled my eyes. "He doesn't care about what happens," I replied, and she smiled. "I don't think so, but you can't give up. You see all these people? They're here to watch you fail. Shirley published a news about how she would be facing you, and believe me when I say this is the most populated festival ever. Don't give up. Go out there and kick Shirley's ass." She encouraged, and I smiled. "You make it seem easy. It's not, but you have to do it." She replied, and I chuckled. "Thank you so much," I whispered, and she nodded as she pulled me up. "Mom, I'll be back." "You'll do well, darling. Just be focused," Mom advised, and I nodded, kissing her cheek before Julia and I headed to the changing room. "Aurora, just remember everything I taught you. If you're lucky, you'll last more than a minute out there." He teased, and I chuckled softly. I couldn't help but notice Julia's smile, and although I wanted to say something, Julia pulled me away. "You need to get dressed fast. Although as a newbie, they'll make you play with fellow newbies like you and keep moving you up the rank. Shirley wouldn't be participating because she's going to compete with the top person. She has won twice now, so she's unbeatable by all these newbies. You're competing with only 9 Lunas. A lot of Lunas pulled out knowing Shirley would be participating, and now it's more of a battle between you and Shirley." Julia explained, and Goddess knew it made me even more nervous. "I don't think your information is helping here. I'm on the verge of collapsing." I muttered, and she giggled. "Go kick some ass. I'll be up there cheering for you whether you lose or win." She replied as she hugged me slightly before pulling away. I smiled as I watched her exit before changing into my fencing gear. My stomach churned as I walked into the field. My legs wobbled, and after hearing the instructions on how the winner would be chosen, we were ordered to fight. My first opponent was quite easy to defeat, as all she focused on was attacking rather than defending herself. I was filled with great joy as I hit her for the 3rd time, and the whole room erupted with joy. I looked back, and true to her words, Julia was cheering at me from where Mom was. Mom had a proud smile on her face, and the joy in my heart surpassed that of victory. I kept fighting more opponents, and now I understand why Shirley was the winner. They were good fencers, but they focused mainly on attacking. "Luna Aurora wins again," the judge announced, and I bowed my head softly with a smile. Now this is going to be her last opponent before she competes with the 2-time champion, Shirley. "Give it up for Stella," he announced, and my stomach plunged. Stella was participating, so why wasn't she out since? My mood turned sour instantly as something felt wrong. I looked back at the crowd to see Shirley sitting on the first row with a large, mischievous smile. "You can do this. Finish what you've started already." I urged myself as I clutched my sword tightly, and after hearing the go-ahead, I began defending Stella's attacks. "Oh!" the crowd yelled as Stella won the first strike. "You can do this. Don't give up." Julia's voice came from the crowd, and I smiled softly. She was keeping to the end of her bargain. I tightened my grip on my sword and decided to pay more attention now, but in less than 5 minutes she had another strike, making the crowd sad. We continued, and I decided to give it my best, matching her swift moves and protecting myself while subtly attacking. I had a smile as I landed my first strike, and the crowd went wild with excitement. Shirley hated it, and all I could feel was pure delight. We continued again, this time furiously attacking without anyone ready to back down, and seeing a slight mistake on her part, I took the opportunity and landed my second strike. "Yes! You've got this! You can do it!" Julia screamed, her voice surpassing every other voice in the hall. Stella and I locked gaze for a moment as we began fighting for the last strike. She matched up every thrust of mine, and I tried my best to match up to hers. We struggled for more than 5 minutes, and the crowd couldn't stop screaming as the fight got intense. Just when I was about to strike, she got the upper hand, striking before me, and everything stopped. There was an uproar as Stella was announced as the winner, and my shoulders slumped with sadness, just when I was having hope already. I began walking away slowly, and to my astonishment, the crowd began booing Stella. I walked over to the changing room where I began changing. "Oh, pity you lost, I warned you, but I guess some lessons are better learnt the hard way." I heard Shirley's taunting voice, and I rolled my eyes. "You were never a match for me. It's so sad that I didn't get to play with you. I'd have shown how mediocre your skills are." She continued as she chuckled. "That's enough. She might have lost, but she gained the heart of the people." Julia cut in, leaving me in confusion. Aurora. "That's enough. She might have lost, but she gained the heart of the people." Julia cut in, leaving me in confusion. I looked back, and to my astonishment, a few maids were walking in with flowers. "This is from Alpha Ryan," the maid muttered as she handed me a beautiful rose bouquet, and I smiled softly, staring at Julia. "This box of chocolate is from Alpha Phillips," he said. "If you need a fencing master, he's more than ready to assist you." Another maid explained, and I nodded, unable to contain my shock. "Oh, please, I've been in this stage, and if I finish fighting, I'm going to be getting all the accolades and roses," she replied, and I smirked. "You've been a loser before?" "Wow!" I retorted, and she growled at me. "Leave her alone, Shirley. Aren't you tired of being a bully?" Julia demanded, and she scoffed, taking one condescending look at Julia. "I see you've come out of your hole. How does it feel knowing that Alpha Xavier would never be yours?" Shirley mocked, and I was about to say something when Julia held me back. "It feels good, knowing well that the Alpha didn't commit the mistake of being with a python like you." Julia clapped back, and Shirley's face turned red with fury. "At least we had a good time, and I was on his bed." She mocked, and Julia sneered. "That's all you've always been, a slut with nothing good to offer. All you do is hop around and warm the bed of alphas, but none is stupid to have anything serious with you." Julia mocked, and Shirley scoffed. "I have a boyfriend presently, unlike you. We both know you're dating him for the festival. When the festival is over, you'll go back to whoring around." Julia replied, and for a moment there was a silent confrontation between both ladies. Shirley didn't say a word and left in anger. "Wow, that was a lot. Thank you so much for standing up for me." "Oh, please, any Shirley slander, I'll always be there. She irks me a lot," Julia replied, and I giggled. "Thank you so much for cheering me on. You were my backbone out there," I said to Julia as I dropped the flower and pulled her into a hug. "Oh, please, all I did was clap." "And scream, it felt like you wanted to pull the whole building down," I replied, and she giggled as she helped me change into my dress. I gave the flower and chocolate to one of the maids as we returned to our seat to watch Shirley fight. People couldn't stop making way and complimenting me as I arrived at my seat, and I felt like disappearing. "You did well for someone who wasn't trained by any famous fencing master. That was smooth." I received another compliment, and I smiled, bowing my head in appreciation. "I'm so proud of you. You were great," Mom muttered, and I smiled happily. Shirley began fighting with Stella, and although her movements were fluid, it felt like Stella was holding back and trying to help her win. "Oh, please, it's always the same technique every year. This is boring to watch." I heard a few guys argue as they left their seats. I couldn't help but notice how scanty the hall was becoming, and people barely paid attention to Shirley's fight. They're all tired of her. I would be too if I was watching the same performance over and over again. We should leave, she suggested, and I nodded. I helped Mom stand up, and together we walked out amidst the cheers. Luna, Aurora, you were so good inside. I can't believe it's your first time fencing. I don't stand a chance with you, and I've fenced for years. Lisa was all smiles as she walked to me, and I chuckled. It wasn't easy, and I got a good trainer. I wouldn't say it's me. I'd just say the goddess was merciful to me. I replied, and she nodded, exchanged pleasantries with Julia before walking away. Mom couldn't stand the noise and crowd, so she left with the maid, while Julia and I decided to walk around and see how things went. I must say I was impressed. Aurora, I'm Matthew, and if you ever need a fencing master, you can count on me any day and any time. A man muttered as he handed over his card, and I accepted it with a smile, knowing it was useless to me. Thank you. Oh, please no, thank you for giving me a beautiful show. It was one of the best shows ever, and I would look forward to watching your remaining performances. He continued, and I smiled, grabbing Julia's hand as I pleaded for her to help me. Goddess knew I wasn't used to being in the spotlight, and it felt weird to be known and seen by many people. I have a private fencing club for ladies. Contact me, and I'll hook you up with great fencers. I'm sorry, but this fencing was just a one-time thing. I don't think I'm interested in fencing anymore. Nonsense. You were perfect out there. You just need to nurture yourself a little, and very soon you'll become a fencing master yourself. I can help you achieve that dream, he asserted with pride, and I nodded. It's pointless arguing. Just say yes. Julia whispered, and I nodded with a fake smile plastered on my face. Yes, thank you. Very good. I look forward to working with you, he muttered before walking away, and I sighed with relief. I've had enough. We should leave now, I pleaded, and she shook her head. I'm just helping you kick Shirley's ass. These alphas and men who come to you are the most affluent in the society. Every year they always come after the winners and try to make friends with them, even though their hidden agenda is to have an affair with them. Seems like you're the hot cake this year, and with you around, Shirley would get the less impressive guys, and it'll leave her furious, she explained, and I shook my head with a smile. You're unbelievable. I was still speaking when Shirley walked out, huffing with anger while a few maids walked behind her. I told you, Julia mumbled, and we both giggled. We were about to leave when a young alpha stopped under front of us with his friend. I'm Ryan. I hope you received my gift. I nodded with a fake smile. I won't give you the same old compliments you've been receiving. I'm sure you must have heard an earful of how good you were, he muttered, and I nodded. My family owns a horse ranch. I was wondering if you'd like to come over and run a few laps with me. It's not visible, but I used to be the best in my time. We can train and have fun at the same time, he pointed out, and I smiled briefly. I'm sorry, but I already have a coach. Thank you for the generous offer. Oh, I'm not trying to coach you. I just want to see how good you are. We could discuss all these over dinner. It's getting late already. How about I take you for dinner? You must be starving after such a great performance. Why do you want to take my wife out for dinner? I almost jerked in shock as the cold voice came through. His smile disappeared and his face turned pale. I almost burst out laughing. Alpha? It was just a little offer to celebrate her victory. He stuttered, his hands shaking, and I clasped my lips shut, trying not to laugh. I just asked a question, he replied, and Ryan bowed. I mean no harm. I have a ranch and I can build a ranch if my wife needs one. Leave, Xavier replied coldly, and Ryan smiled before walking away. Immediately he left, Julia burst into laughter, and I couldn't help but smile. You should leave, Xavier muttered. Yes, we were just about to have dinner at a restaurant, but I'm scared that if we go out to celebrate the victory, we would encounter more alphas, Julia muttered, and Xavier frowned. Then go home. She won. It's meant to be celebrated with champagne and a romantic dinner date. She pressed on, and Louis nodded. Yes, I think that's right. Yeah, you should have let Ryan take her out for dinner today. And if you're not pleased with Ryan, then I'm sure there's another alpha out there who would be willing. After all, I saw Alpha Matthew a few minutes ago while some others gave her their cards. Louis intervened, and Xavier glared at him. Enough. Let's go, he announced, and Julia giggled. I don't think Aurora is properly dressed for a date, but she'll have to manage this one. I'll see you later, Aurora," she announced, and my eyes widened in shock as I realized Louis was about to come up with his excuse too. "No, we are all celebrating. You're not leaving me, neither are you, Louis," I insisted, and after an eye roll she nodded, and together we walked to the car. Aurora. It was the second day, and Goddess knew I was nervous as hell, so we all left our seats and headed to the center of the hall. I could hear my name in the crowd, and looking around, I couldn't help but blush as several alphas stared at me with lustful eyes. My eyes met with Xavier, and his frown made my smile disappear immediately, and I averted my gaze. The dice were thrown, and we all picked out one ball. It contained the scripts we were to take, and I got number 7. I picked up my script and walked away. "What did you get?" Julia demanded immediately. I arrived at the seat, and a smile appeared on her face as she checked it out. "You're going to ace this. You're acting as a maid who is mistreated by the boss," she replied, and I smiled softly, remembering it was my life a few weeks ago. "It'll be only for a few minutes. I'm glad it's not more than 4 minutes. Let's go practice. I'm sure Mateo would be searching for you now," she replied, and after telling Mom where I was heading, we left for one of the private areas. Mateo was waiting impatiently with his feet stamping the floor, and I smiled softly. "I got this, Master," I teased as I bowed my head, and he rolled his eyes before snatching it away. "Now, act like the boss while Aurora is the maid," he replied, and Julia nodded. She began acting, and I immersed myself in the role, forcing myself to bring out tears as I rolled on the floor. "Cut. You need to put in more emotion. Don't make people know you're acting. You need to live this like it's a regular day in your life. Move us to tears, make us feel bad for you, and turn whoever your boss is into our enemy in the real world," he urged, and I nodded. "Go again," he instructed, and I nodded. I made sure to put in great effort this time around, and immediately I finished, he began clapping his hands gleefully. "Bravo, bravo, that was intense. I felt the emotions. Now that is how you move a crowd. After the festival, I would find movie roles for you if you ever have an interest in acting," he suggested, and I chuckled. "Let's just get through with the festival first," I muttered, and he nodded. "Take a little break. Don't exhaust yourself before your play," he replied, and I nodded. Julia and I decided to drop the script with the maids while Julia and I went to get lunch. "We should do this often. You and I make a great team," she muttered as we ate ice cream, and I smiled. "Honestly, at first I was extremely nervous around you. You know, because of the issue with Xavier, I never thought you would teach me," I confessed, and she giggled. "I noticed it. By the way, why did you come after me if you weren't sure?" I smiled. "I just wanted to try. I didn't want to give up foolishly, and I knew I didn't stand a chance with Shirley, so I just needed to get the best," I answered, and she chuckled. "Well, you got the best ass kicker because I'm going to help you kick Shirley's ass," she replied gleefully, and I smiled. "Why do you hate Shirley? It seems to be deeper than Xavier." "Oh, it was never because of Xavier. It's a long time ago. I barely remember," she said dismissively, and I smiled. I was going to respect her privacy since she didn't want to talk about it. "We should head to the hall now. It's starting in 10 minutes, she suggested, and I nodded. I grabbed my script without glancing at it as I went to the side meant for participants. I was stunned to see Shirley going first, and the air changed slightly. I could feel something strange inside of me. Things didn't add up. She collected the microphone and flashed me a mischievous smile before she submitted her file. She mentioned her number and the part she'd be playing, and my eyes widened in shock. I opened my file immediately, and to my astonishment, I realized our roles have been switched. I was now to act as the spoiled daughter who wasn't getting her way. I began panting heavily as my chest tightened. I couldn't stand any as it felt like I was being suffocated as Shirley began acting. I dashed out immediately, heading to the back of the stage, and a few minutes later, Julia joined me. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" Julia demanded, and I shook my head as I handed the file over to her. "I can't do this. I know nothing about it. Shirley is nothing but a bitch." I was close to tears, and she gasped with shock as she stared at the script. I knew she was being too quiet. "You can't give up now. Anytime, but not now," she urged as she grabbed my shoulders, and I scoffed. "It's pointless. I don't have time. Shirley won already. I replied dejectedly, and she shook her head. No, you can't let her win. You can't give up now. Would you rather I go on that stage and embarrass myself? I demanded, and she grabbed my cheeks. Aurora, look at me. Calm down, okay? Breathe in and out, she suggested, and I let her words calm me down, and slowly I nodded. Aurora, you can do this. Don't tell me you can't, because you have an advantage over everybody in that damned hall. You were once a maid, you experienced pain, and you watched Stella, who was spoiled. Shirley would perform well, but she wouldn't get any emotion from the audience, but you, I assure you that everyone would be thrilled because. She encouraged, and I was still reluctant. Oh, please, it's just a few lines. You can crush this. If you can beat numerous ladies in fencing, what is a little mincing of words that you can't do? She whispered, pressing a hand to my shoulder, and I nodded. Yes, I can do this. Thank you, Julia. You're the best. Enough. Now you should start practicing, she replied, and I nodded with a smile as I began practicing the words. I'll go inside, and when it's almost your turn, I'll call you. Aurora, don't be scared. You're going to do perfectly well, she whispered, and I nodded, smiling faintly as she walked away while I whispered the words to myself. Just wait and see. I'll make you regret this, Shirley, I whispered as I paced around. 15 minutes later, my phone rang, and I headed inside with a faint smile on my face. Stella cast me a condescending look with a triumphant smile. You're back. I thought you wouldn't be coming back, she whispered, and I scoffed. Why? Did you do anything that'll make me leave? I retorted with a fake smile on my face. No, I kicked your ass the first time, so I was hoping you'd have learnt something. Too bad Alfred Xavier isn't here to help you. She mocked, and I smiled. Too bad you have Dad to help you rig it. I'm sure you're happy being third since you don't have a chance of winning the first or second. I replied, and just as she was about to reply, I was called up to the stage. I squared my shoulders and walked to the stage where I presented my script. You've got this, Julia whispered, and I smiled as I let myself get immersed in the character. How dare you? You filthy piece of trash. Do you know how much this costs? Even if you scrub floors all your life, you would never be able to afford it. I read out the first line of my script, and Julia's proud smile made it known that I was doing a good job. I continued acting while trying very hard not to break character because of the look of shock on Mateo's face. The crowd erupted with claps, and I was stunned when several roses were thrown my way. I bowed and waved at the crowd as I walked down, heading to the place where we were all assembled, waiting for the verdict. My palms were covered with sweat as I stared at my feet, trying to hide my nervousness. Only the goddess knew how good I was, but I didn't have hope for the first position because I knew Shirley aced her performance. They began calling out the winners right from the last to the first, and my eyes widened with shock as I realized I had made it to the top 3. I shut my eyes tightly, waiting for me to be announced as the third, and I almost staggered back with excitement and shock as Stella was awarded with third, just like I had predicted. The judges decided to take a 5-minute break, and I felt like collapsing. My heart was pounding heavily, and all I just wanted was for them to announce the winner. The break ended, and we all gathered again. I was stamping my feet in the floor in anticipation while staring at the crowd who were eager as well. The second position goes to none other than Luna, to be, Shirley, the judge declared, and Shirley huffed in anger as she walked out without acknowledging the cheers. I couldn't believe my eyes. I was in shock as they announced me as the first, and up until a flower necklace was placed around my neck, I was still in shock. You did it, Aurora. I told you. Julia pulled me into a huge, and tears streamed down my cheeks as I nodded softly. I didn't do it alone, Julia. We did it together. I wouldn't have won without your help, I replied, unable to control my tears, and she giggled. Wipe your tears. Now is the time to be happy. She scolded, and I nodded. Aurora. It was a day after the drama performance, and I couldn't get over being called the drama queen. You're so popular, Julia whispered as we walked into the ranch to hear numerous cheers from people. It's extremely scary. When would it end? I mean the whole cheering and receiving of gifts. Just today, the maids brought in 5 baskets of roses. Xavier was pissed, and he almost exploded when he saw the chocolates and jewelry. I continued with a smile, remembering Xavier's face. Well, it's his fault for marrying a capable wife like you, she replied, and I rolled my eyes. Oh, please, we both know this is a joke. I'm not half as good as you are. You've got numerous degrees, and I'm judging but a married woman, I said with a pout, and she chuckled. They're all useless now because I run a cafe. I might have all the degrees, but I don't have what you have, she replied, her eyes filled with sadness. What? A mate. But that's not a discussion for today. We need to see Sly, she replied, and she hopped away, and I smiled. We went to the stable, and I smiled as I patted Sly's head while grabbing a few sugar cubes. It's extremely shocking to know you've tamed the great beast, but then this isn't the first beast you've tamed, so I shouldn't be shocked, she joked, and I smiled. What are you talking about? You tamed Xavier, and believe me, he's not one easy man. I've known Sly for years now. He became aggressive ever since his last owner passed away 4 years ago. She explained, and I felt sad for Sly. I'm sorry, big guy. That must have been hard for you. No wonder you don't like people. I'm always here for you, Sly. I didn't know if he understood my words, but I smiled when he neighed and moved his tail around. Let's kick Shirley's ass today, Sly. Shirley and Stella have been giving Aurora a tough time. When you see them on the tracks, you should kick them away, she instructed, and I giggled. You're teaching him how to be violent. No, I'm just telling him what he needs to know. You should be careful out there. Stella and Shirley have a lot of tricks up their sleeves. Don't be too close to them or else they'll harm Sly. I gasped as disgust filled my insides. Why would they harm an innocent animal just because of a stupid game? This is meant to be a fun gathering that brings us together. Well, it used to bring them together, but now it's destroying them, she muttered sadly. The stable boy brought over the horse rack and reins. He threw on everything on Sly, whose head I was holding to stop him from doing something wild. I could sense fear, and immediately he finished, he bolted out. Sly, you need to stop scaring people, I whispered and placed a kiss on his head before opening the door. You've got this! Kick their ass! Julia squealed before she hugged me and walked away. Sly and I walked to the starting line where Stella and Shirley were standing beside their horses. Evil smiles plastered on their faces. Are you ready? The judge yelled as we mounted our horses, and I rubbed Sly's neck. We need to do this, Sly. Make us proud, I whispered, and immediately the buzzer went on. I snapped my reins, urging Sly to start. I wasn't shocked when I saw Shirley ahead, but it was odd to see Stella behind rather than at the front. I ignored them and continued riding with Sly, whispering words as I continued thumping away. We were to run 30 miles, and I was panting heavily as the breeze rustled my hair. I managed to surpass more people, making me awfully close to Shirley, while Stella was hot on my tail. We had just passed the 23rd mile when I neared Shirley. She growled at me as she neared me. Soon Stella caught up with me, and both of them sandwiched me in between. They moved even closer, and while dashed away, Sly neighed in fury or what seemed to be pain as he rose, throwing me off roughly. He was neighing and raising his legs, and I rolled away, trying to figure out what was happening. What's wrong, Sly? Are you okay? I demanded, walking towards him while keeping my distance at the same time. I saw blood on the floor, and I gasped in shock. They had ignored Sly, and that was the reason for his crashing out. It's fine. Everything is all right, I whispered, furious and concerned about him at the same time. Continue. Don't give up now. You can still win. I heard a few shouts, but I shook my head. I wouldn't be like them. It's fine. I won't endanger your life for a silly title, I whispered as I began patting his head carefully. With a smile, I began leading him towards the finish line. I watched all of them pass me while smirking, but I was ready to walk Sly to the finish line, even if it took days. I heard cheers erupt as Shirley won the race. I could see Julia waiting for me eagerly at the finish line, and I smiled at her. We're almost there, Sly. I'll have you treated and properly taken care of, I promised, and to my shock, I saw a lot of people cheering and waving at me. You can do this! They began chanting, and I smiled as I continued walking. Sly, you're a hero. People are cheering for you. It's not all about winning the first position after all, I whispered as I waved at them, my heart filled with great delight. I saw Shirley stomp away with anger while Stella glared at me before following. Arriving at the finish line, Julia was the first to come over and she pulled me into a hug while the stable boys took Sly. "Please take care of him." I pleaded in between the cheers from the crowds. "Aurora." The time was thinking very fast, and I kept glancing at my croissants in the oven. My heart was pounding heavily, and my hands were covered in sweat. I had 2 minutes left when I whipped out my croissants from the oven. I had to fan it a little before placing it on the table. I was covered in sweat as the alarm went off, and we were ordered to stop. My heart couldn't stop pounding, and I held the table for support. The judges came over, starting with mine first and moving on to Shirley's. I waited in anticipation, trying very hard to hide my nervousness as they discussed. The final winner. I shut my eyes tightly while whispering prayers to the goddess. "Luna Aurora!" Screams and claps erupted from the crowd, and amidst the hundreds of people, I could make out Julia's. She was smiling at me proudly, and I couldn't help but cry softly. She was my backbone. She stood by me. She fought for me countless times. She was indeed one of the best things that happened to me this year. "Thank you," I muttered, wiping tears as I collected the award of a female wolf who was standing high on a rock. Julia rushed over, and I hugged her immensely, squeezing her as tightly as I could. "Thank you so much. I couldn't have done it without you," I whispered, and she nodded, patting my back softly. "I'm so proud of you. You did great," she whispered, and I pulled away and hugged her again. I just couldn't let go of her. "That's enough. You're trying to kill me," she muttered, and I laughed as I pulled away slowly. "So this is it. We won." "We did, and we kicked a lot of asses, too," she replied, and we turned to Shirley, who had just dashed out in full rage, her tail in between her legs. "We need to celebrate. Your first year participating, and you won," she squealed. "Sue, any place in mind? Maybe a restaurant. Wait, why can't I find Xavier? Is he serious? He didn't come to watch his wife win." She grumbled, and I chuckled. "It's fine. He is busy with work. Let's just go have lunch," I replied, and she nodded. "I'll take you to the best spot in this pack. I know you know everywhere, but believe me, I know the best place," she replied as she began leading me. "I'm so glad you enrolled this year. This is fun to watch. We should do this more often," she suggested, and I burst into laughter. "I wouldn't do it alone. The only reason I'll participate again is if you join too," I replied, and she rolled her eyes. "Hell no. I'm not cut out for things like this, but you are a natural. What if Shirley threatens you again next year?" she asked, and I smiled. "Oh, please, she knows better than to push me again. I'm sure she wouldn't dare. She should be scared because a combo like ours is sure to crush her and her minions," I replied, and we burst into laughter. We walked past numerous alphas who wouldn't stop handing out their cards and greeting us. It was so tiring, and Julia smiled, telling me that the position came with great exposure. We had lunch and hung out throughout the day. The day became dark, and although I didn't want her to leave, we had no option but to part ways. I entered the car, staring at the bouquets and gifts. I sighed heavily. So what's the next option now? I won. I became famous, and now I'll have to go back to living my life as the wife of Xavier. I was still in deep thoughts when I felt something stirring inside of me. We arrived at the gates of the house. "Stop," I ordered the driver, uncertain of what was going on, but I just wanted fresh air. Something was wrong somewhere, and I stepped out, looking around, and suddenly my senses heightened. I could scent people from a distance, and my vision became sharper. "Allow me to take control." A voice whispered inside me, and I felt a sharp jab on my tummy. I held my tummy as the pain sent me to the ground, groaning and struggling to catch my breath. I felt nauseous, my stomach churned, and I began to sweat, but at the same time something different was happening. I glanced at my hands, and to my shock, fur was beginning to appear. Gray fur, and I let out a loud howl as I felt a sharp pain in my chest, like someone was clawing their way out. I was panting heavily as I stood on the ground. My sight was extremely sharp, and looking around, I was covered in fur. My heart pounded with joy at the realization that I had just found my wolf. "My wolf," I whispered softly. "Yes, I'm Fiona M., your wolf." The voice came from within me, and Goddess knew I wanted to cry for joy. I finally had a wolf, after all these years. "Fiona, thank you so much for coming to me." "Thank you. I'm sorry for coming late. Everyone had theirs before, and when they turned 18, I'm sorry, Aurora. It's fine, Fiona. What matters is that you're here, I replied happily. Do you want to go on a run? Want to check out yourself in the river? She asked with excitement. Yes, I've always wanted to do that and more. I have a lot to discuss with you and lots of things to do. Mom is going to be overjoyed, I replied, and she began dash towards the Pack River. The cool breeze played with my fur, and I had never been at such great ease. It was serene. Having a wolf was a great experience, and to jump and tell the world that I wasn't wolfless. I wanted to walk before my father and show him my wolf, tell him I'm not a bastard, and the greatest mistake he made was kicking me and Mom out. There's so much to be done, so much, I whispered, and arriving at the river, I stared at myself in the light illuminated by the moon. I looked beautiful. My eyes watered as I stared at my huge form. I was larger than Stella, not that it was anything. I sat down for a moment, taking in my appearance, and tears formed in my eyes. Mom would be so proud. Fiona, we are married to the meanest and ruthless alpha ever. I know you're going to be disappointed because I left Theodore, but I'm sorry. I just had to do it, I whispered. It's fine, Aurora. He was never the one for us in the first place, she replied, and I frowned. What do you mean? You didn't have a mate then, the day you thought you were each other's mates. Theodore's mate died, and where you met with him was the place she was buried at. Her scent was around you, she explained, and I went blank for a moment. What are you saying? I felt the mate pull. Are you saying that was nothing? I demanded, and she sighed. I'm sorry, Aurora, but Theodore was never your mate, she replied, and I gasped. So now what you're saying is I'm yet to find my real mate? Yes, Aurora, she answered, leaving me stunned and speechless. Aurora. I walked into the house, uncertain of how to feel. I was supposed to be happy, but then a part of me was scared. What if I end up finding my mate and he wants me? What about Xavier? The whole world would know that I have a different mate and I'm married to another. It'll be fine, Fiona warned, and I shook my head. You don't understand. I'm carrying the Alpha's child, or another person's, but then everything is complicated, Fiona. What have I gotten myself into? I whispered, my eyes filled with tears. Walking to my room, I couldn't help but frown. Everything felt lame. The little excitement in my life was gone, and maybe who knows tomorrow Julia would leave the pack. You don't want her to leave, right? There's nothing I can do to keep her here. I'm sure she's excited to return to her cafe. Lucky her, I replied, and Fiona purred. Or. My ears sharpened immediately, and my heart skipped a beat as I waited patiently for Fiona to suggest how to make her stay. You can both open a cafe in this pack and run it together. It keeps you occupied, and at the same time you can be together, Fiona suggested, and I shrugged. I don't think it's going to work. I mean, she loves her old cafe, and I doubt if she wants to run it with anyone, I mumbled, and Fiona giggled. Oh, please, she totally wants to be with you. You can give the suggestion to Xavier, and if he's fine with it, you can go ahead and inform her, she replied, and I nodded, my heart plunging. I feel guilty, Fiona. I shouldn't have agreed to such a ploy, but how there's nothing I can do. Alpha Xavier has treated me kindly, and if he finds out the child in me isn't his, he would kill me. You're yet to have a test. What if you don't get pregnant? I'm sure they would repeat the process, and with this new doctor, things would be done properly, she pointed out, and I nodded. So now let's keep hoping the insemination I did before results in nothing, I muttered under my breath, feeling relieved that I could speak to someone about this. I changed and had my bath before heading downstairs. I was stunned to see Alpha Xavier having dinner, and I swallowed hard as I joined him, muttering a greeting. Tell him, Fiona whispered, and I refused. She began clawing and moving restlessly inside of me, urging me to speak, and after a long time of trying to put up with her shenanigans, I finally voiced out. I wish to open a cafe. I gasped and slapped my mouth with my hands immediately, my hands trembling with fear as I gazed at Xavier, who was staring at me plainly. I would love to open a cafe. That's if it's okay with you, I replied, and he nodded. I want you to help me with the capital, to start, and when I've gathered enough, to pay you back, and if you want, you can take it out of my monthly income, I muttered, and he didn't utter a word. That's if you're fine with it, and if you're not fine, I understand. I'll have Luis show you the available spaces, he replied, and my eyes almost popped out with shock. Although I wanted him to reply, I wasn't expecting something as good as this. Thank you so much, Alpha. Thank you, I muttered, unable to believe my ears. I want to partner with Julia, too. I was expecting a reply of some sort, but he said nothing, and I almost exploded with happiness. I couldn't help but feel more guilty. Goddess knew he didn't deserve the thing I had done to him, and I wished I could change things for the better. Thank you. It means a lot, I muttered, my voice barely audible. It's been almost a month. Have you gone for a checkup? He demanded, and I felt my stomach clench. His words hit me like a bag of bricks, and for a moment, I couldn't utter any word. I tried saying something when I was suddenly hit with nausea. I slapped my palms on my mouth and dashed towards the nearest restroom, emptying my stomach. I wiped my hands with the back of my palm after washing my face. I felt lightheaded, and I shut my eyes tightly as I tried to get a grip of myself. It was hard to tell whether it was the question or food that made me act in such a way, but after gathering myself, I walked tiredly to the dining room. I'm so sorry. I don't feel too good, I muttered, and he didn't say a word. He just nodded. It was difficult to tell what he was thinking, and I pushed the food aside. I was done for today. I was heading towards my room when I suddenly felt dizzy. I staggered back slightly and grabbed the stairs to prevent myself from falling. I turned to see him staring at me, and I smiled faintly before dashing for my room. What the fuck is wrong with you? Get a hold of yourself, girl. I scolded myself, unable to understand why I was suddenly this silly. I jumped on the bed and pushed away every thought out of my mind, blocking Fiona too, because I knew she was going to talk about Xavier. Aurora cried for hours, throughout the day to be more specific. Even when she had no idea what was wrong and why her tears kept falling, she kept sobbing without control. Her pillow was soaked with her tears, and she didn't eat since the breakfast she had, where she'd barely eaten anything. Aurora kept turning in her bed, her stomach churning and making her uncomfortable, while she kept feeling nauseous, constipated, full, without having any meal. And her eyes feeling puffy and bulgy while throbbing through their sockets. She knew she could have a fever if she didn't find a way to pacify herself, but somehow her tears didn't want to stop. Xavier returned home, his mind a roller coaster of emotions. He didn't know how to react to the news, or how Aurora had taken it, how she'd felt, what she was currently feeling, and the thoughts that were running through her mind. They were going to have a baby. Their baby. Together. The thought wouldn't stop playing in his head, and it felt odd that he was strangely excited about the whole thing. He strode into the house and stopped abruptly in front of her door, contemplating if it was the right thing to do by going in. His hands tried to knock on the door, but he hesitated, reaching for the doorknob instead. They needed to talk and find a way. Not a way out of anything, but a way to everything. Aurora jumped slightly when she heard her door open, and when her eyes met him walking in with his confident stride, she quickly composed herself, carefully wiping off the tear stains on her face so he wouldn't see them. But he felt something off about her, and her room felt suffocating, draining, consuming. Her energy was all over the room, and he felt it, low, weak, and negative. He noticed her jerky movements and the way she'd slightly jumped at his sight. It was like she was trying to hide something. And he wondered what it was. Are you okay? She traced the concern in his voice and quickly pressed her hands together, nodding her head quietly in response. Yes, she was lying. It was evident in her tone, but he knew better than to press further. Rather, he found himself speaking awkwardly. If you need anything, don't hesitate to call me or come over. She nodded, feeling the awkwardness that hung over them. If she needed anything, yes, she did. To cry her eyes out until she could no longer open them. He straightened his shoulders and then heard him heave a deep sigh. It was frustrating, standing there and finding the words that had suddenly disappeared from his lips. He turned to leave, but halted for a second, squaring his shoulders at her. Here are some snacks. He handed her a little bag that was filled with different snacks. Don't worry about the sugar or anything. The doctor said it's healthy for you to consume. That wasn't what she needed, but it was a good start. She stretched her hands forward to receive it, forcing a smile in acceptance. But the truth remained. The sadness in her didn't disappear. Rather, it kept growing with each passing second. "Thank you," she muttered, and tossed the bag next to her on the bed after taking a peep. Xavier ran a hand through his hair nervously, walking towards the door for his exit. When he walked out, Aurora stared at his retreating figure, and then she returned back to her gloomy mood. Back in his room, Xavier's wolf was restless, and he kept growling and whispering the words that were already troubling him. "I can sense the unhappiness Aurora is feeling," Thor growled inside him. "I can feel her pups inside of me." Xavier ran his tongue over his lip tiredly. He didn't know what to say or do, but he felt it, her sadness. It was all over her. Her body, her eyes, her voice. But what could he do? And how could he take it all away? But he felt excited for the pups. It felt refreshing in his veins, and it excites him. But then, her sadness. Was it the pregnancy or the hormones? Was it him? Was she mad at him? Or was it the news in general? Xavier felt just as restless as Thor. He threw himself into his bed, trying to ignore the persisting thoughts of her and fill his mind with something else. But it wasn't an easy task. Thor kept reminding him, and his mind kept flickering back to the way she'd spoken to him, a low voice that was shaky and trying so hard to conceal everything that was bothering her. Her once shiny blue eyes had turned gray, and the color on her face had turned pale and drained. Knowing Aurora, he knew something was definitely wrong, and he couldn't ignore it. Xavier threw himself off the bed in a rush, like a war had suddenly bolted into his room. He walked heavily and in a rush, dashing for her room and turning the door open without warning. Aurora's eyes darted to the door, and the earlier shock she felt returned. And this time, it wasn't something that was hidden from his eyes. He walked closer to where she sat on the bed, his eyes searching hers and wandering all over her body to see for himself if there were any physical signs. "Are you sure you're fine?" "Yes," she responded without hesitation, and if he didn't know better, he'd have taken her words for the truth as she sounded very convincing. Too bad, it was just a lie. And her smile? It was a facade to conceal her true feelings underneath. "Get ready." She turned around at the sound of his husky and authoritative voice. "You're coming with me." She furrowed her brows, knitting them together with a hint of curiosity dripping in her look and voice. "What's happening? And where are we going?" He smiled at her, hoping she'd have a change of heart and mood while leaning his head forward to whisper, "I'm taking you shopping." That seemed to work. He watched her eyes lit up in excitement as she hurried out of the bed and headed to her wardrobe to pick out her outfit to wear. Aurora ran her hands through the clothes on the rack, with the shop attendant walking and holding the items she'd chosen, while Xander sat at a spot, watching and waiting patiently over a magazine he was holding. Except that he wasn't reading. His eyes were secretly watching her as her cheerful laughter that had returned filtered through his ears. He saw her approaching with the items she'd picked out, and he quickly tried to keep his eyes on the magazine so she wouldn't catch him watching her secretly. "I'm done shopping." He raised his head to look at her, plastering a neutral expression over his face. "You're sure you have everything you need?" She nodded. He stood up, dropping the magazine back to the table he'd found. A hand reached for his breast pocket, and he retrieved his credit card. Or cards, rather. He brought out 3. "Wrap everything up," he spoke to the attendant, who nodded with her hands outstretched to receive the cards he handed out to her. "Feel free to use any one that interests you." They arrived at the pack house. She'd shopped through every single rack she'd laid her eyes on, and the shopping bags she had were too much, but she managed to carry them all at once. Aurora walked straight to her room, and she dropped all the bags to the bed and heaved a tired sigh. She was exhausted. All that shopping and picking items had surprisingly worn her out. Her hands reached for the first bag, and she pulled out a dress from it. A fluffy fabric that was pink and flared. She'd felt drawn to the dress after seeing it in her favorite color. Aurora tried a few dresses on, trying to lighten up her mood, but unfortunately, nothing changed. She was left with no option but to visit her mother, who lived in another house entirely. Aurora threw back the dresses to the bed and didn't even bother to arrange them in her wardrobe before grabbing her purse to leave. Her legs walked briskly when she arrived at her mother's house. She didn't have to force a smile when she walked in. It came naturally, and she just knew that doing it and being there, felt just right. Aurora, her mother's eyes and lips smiled at her while reaching for a hug. Aurora ran into her mother's hands, inhaling her refreshing scent of caramel. "Mum." She pulled away from her and allowed her eyes to slowly check out her daughter. There was something different. She felt it, and she saw it. "Aurora, you're pregnant," she announced before her daughter could say anything, her mouth slightly ajar. Aurora's eyes widened slightly at her mother's house. She hadn't even told her the news yet. How did she know? How could she tell? "Yes, Mum." She breathed the truth out, confirming her mother's suspicions. And when she tried to say another word she had on her lips, her sadness and heavy emotions returned, making her burst into another round of tears. What's the matter? She hated the fact that she was troubling everyone with her emotions, her tears, her feelings, but the truth was, her heart was heavy. "I'm pregnant," she repeated, sniffling her nostrils and holding her mother's curious gaze as she held her hands to pacify her. "But it's someone else's baby." Her mother arched her brows in curiosity, wondering what Aurora was blabbing about. Maybe she heard wrong. Aurora would do nothing indecent that would drag her name through the mud. Her tone conveyed the clarification she needed. "I don't get you. What do you mean?" Aurora felt her throat burning as she struggled with the explanation in her head. "The insemination we did, the sperm, it belonged to the enemy." Her mother sounded and appeared horrified at the same time. "Enemy?" "Yes." Another tear streamed down her right eye as she continued. "Alpha Xavier has been so good to me, and now I don't even know what to do or tell him. I'm so confused, and I think I might pass out any time soon." "Aurora, this is serious." Yes, it was. She knew it since she found out about it. "I know." She shrugged her shoulders at the reminder of the danger that was lurking around. "The Alpha might kill me if he finds out about the truth. I think I have to confess, and I'll need to confess right away. That's the only way out of this. We might terminate the pregnancy while it's still early." Aurora stared into her mother's eyes for reassurance, but she saw the fear that lingered in them, and it made her heart thump against her chest furiously. How'd she gotten into such a mess? "Aurora, you need to confess to the Alpha." Her mother's voice drew her attention back to her, and she sank her teeth into her lower lip. "That's better than him finding out himself." Aurora nodded in agreement, tilting her head backward to blink back the tears that were trying to run down her cheeks. "Yes, that's what I'm going to do. I'll confess to the Alpha. I'm ready to face whatever it is, the punishment and consequences for my actions. I'm ready to pay the price, but I don't want to lie to him anymore. I should never have done this in the first place." Aurora thanked her mother, gave her one last hug, and then returned back to the pack house. Although her mood wasn't entirely clear, a bit of the burden she'd felt earlier had been lifted. "There's something I have to tell. We're going to a party that's happening at another pack." He broke her off before she could complete the words she'd struggled to utter in front of him. "You need to get ready right away." Aurora swallowed back the words she wanted to say, and only replaced them with a single word. "Okay." She turned to leave, and her feet stormed up the stairs and all the way to her room. The thought of what she wanted to confess to him wouldn't leave her mind. Aurora felt the prickly urge to utter everything in his face, but there was no single chance she could grab as a slot. The drive to the party was quiet. They sat in silence, and Aurora found herself battling with the thoughts of telling Xavier everything there in the car. But it didn't feel like the right time or place for a conversation as heavy and sensitive as the one she wanted to say. Arriving at the other pack, Xavier offered his arm for her to hold, reminding her of the need to act and appear as the perfect couple. They went around the space, exchanging pleasantries with other Alphas and Lunas. Aurora saw Lisa, her friend, and she smiled at her cheerfully, waving her hands in the air with Lisa reciprocating the gesture. Xavier excused himself, leaving Aurora all alone to stand in a corner. Her moody demeanor returned after his absence, and it felt even worse this time around. She allowed her eyes to wander through the crowd, and she felt a knot tighten in her stomach when she met his eyes, the one of the Alpha's enemy and sworn rival. Great. Now her mood was only going to get worse. Aurora felt her breath stop for a moment, and she turned her eyes away in a hurry. Her chest resumed its usual pounding, and for some reason she couldn't look away, and it made her annoyed with herself. And she regretted the fact that she'd set her eyes on him in the first place. She turned her eyes back at him and held his cold, steady gaze, one that did nothing but instill fear in her and reminded her once again of the mistaken truth she was hiding. The next thing her impulsivity urged was to run back to Alpha Xavier. And by the time she'd gotten to where he was, she was already panting hard like a deer that was thirsty for water. I want to go home, like right now. He stared at her in surprise and then held her wrist to pull her aside, his voice sounding concerned. Are you all right? What's wrong? Nothing. She swallowed the truth and forced out the lie. I just feel dizzy. I need to rest my head. Please give me a few more minutes and... I can't wait for a few more minutes. She didn't mean to interrupt, but he just wasn't getting it. This whole environment is making me feel nauseous, and I desperately want to get out of here as soon as I can. He stared at her, believing her words. After all, she was pregnant, and since she was so adamant on leaving, then whatever she was feeling had to be serious. Throughout the stay there, Aurora felt nervous and restless, and she made sure she didn't wander her eyes to see him. Again. After what felt like eternity, Xavier finally allowed them to take their leave. Aurora breathed out in relief, and she tried dashing into her room the moment they got back. But Xavier's words and the curiosity that lingered in his tone halted her in her tracks. Earlier before we left, you said you wanted to tell me something. What was that? Aurora froze for a moment. This wasn't the time. It didn't feel right telling him. She didn't know how to explain the sudden change that enveloped her. It's nothing, she forced a smile at him, brushing her fidgeting fingers over her dress. I forgot whatever I wanted to say. He stared at her skeptically, like she was lying, but then she saw him shrug his shoulders, and she knew she had to bolt away before he raised further questions. Aurora rushed through the stairs, her heart racing and her thoughts juggling. This was too heavy to bear, and she needed to be alone when thinking before she uttered her thoughts loudly for him to hear. And there was only one place she could run off to, her room, Aurora's POV. The chair creaked as Mom stood up slowly and joined me on the bed. I sighed, rubbing my stomach and staring at her. She smiled a bit and squeezed my hands. I jerk a bit because her hands are so cold, but as I relax, I can feel the warmth. We can go together for antenatal visitation and probably stop by your favorite restaurant to pick that hamburger you love so much, she said, smiling widely. I laughed, staring at her glowing eyes. I would appreciate that, Mum. It's been a while since I last tasted the hamburgers, though. It's one to die for, she snickered, waving my comment off. All right, that's good. You're all right, though? I quickly smiled, holding her hand. Yes, Mum, all is right with the world. I'm just wondering about my cravings. Lately, all I want to eat is chicken and fried fries. How was yours? Oh, that was a long time ago, but I remember waking up every night and rummaging the kitchen for cucumbers. She laughed as my eyes widened. Yeah, it was a weird craving stage for me. I ate more fruits during that period and a lot of ice cream. Pregnancies do a lot of weird things to women. I joined her in her laughter. It does. I remember a woman in our parenthood classes who shared how she woke her tired labor worker husband for a plate of lamb soup and sourdough bread. He ended up serving her a plate of lentils instead. Mum laughed as she mimicked the woman's accent. Nah, this isn't what I ordered, she had screamed, but her husband was already dozing off. I started to speak, but a knock on the door interrupted me. Are you expecting someone? Mom shook her head, surprise written on her face. Maybe it's the Gamma? I shook my head. Maybe Alpha Xavier sent him over. Mom threw me a look but said nothing as the door pushed open and Dad stepped in, carrying a gift basket. A shocked cry escaped my lips as he smiled at Mom and approached me. What are you doing here? I asked in my most civil tone, which I could tell was cold from the way Mum reacted. I didn't care. He dropped the gift basket on the chair and rubbed his hands. I am here for my grandchild and you, my daughter. What? Mum and I said in unison. Darren, what are you doing? I'm trying to make things right. She's carrying an important grandchild, and as the beta, I must ensure she is taken care of. I laughed, rolling my eyes at him. I can't believe you right now. Do I look like I need your help or incapable of taking care of my baby? Aurora, I want to be your dad, and I know what's good for you and my grandchild. I cut him short, glaring at him. Dad, you labeled me as an outcast. That's what I have always been to you. He threw his head back, laughing softly. Aurora, I'm sorry and willing to accept you back as my daughter. I don't need your pity, Beta Darren. Neither am I going to forgive you. I am a changed person. I promise to be there for you and my grandchild. Eva, won't you at least say something? Help me out, he cried, glancing at Mum. She rose, her eyes on me. Whatever you decide, I agree with you. If you want him out of your life, so be it. I will take my leave now. I held her before she turned. I didn't want her to leave me in the room with him because I couldn't promise I would keep myself in control. If anyone needs to leave, it's Beta Darren. Are you done? He glared at Mum and cocked his head at me. I'm trying, please. Just give me a chance. I sighed, hating the prolonged conversation. Why now? Why did you wait till I was pregnant for the alpha and the whole pack was talking about it before coming to meet me? Well, you finally did something right for the family, and I am a respected beta throughout the pack and beyond. My grandchild would need my protection against the alpha's rivals. I laughed, shaking my head. It's always going to be about reputation and how respected you are, Beta Darren. It's always going to be about you, and others would always remain second, including my grandchild. You know that's not what I mean. You reek of selfishness, Beta, and I can't stand it. I rose, folding my arms. I think you should leave. Mum and I were busy before you interrupted us. He bit his bottom lip, staring coldly at Mum. Eva, aren't you going to say anything? He had a harsh expression on his face, and his jaw was set hard. I didn't care, though. Whatever I was going to say, he had it coming for a long time. Mum has nothing to say, but I do. I smiled as he took in a sharp breath. You were dead to me before, and henceforth you will remain so. I don't see you as a father, but as a selfish beta who would always put himself first instead of others. So stay away from Mum and me, all right? He laughed, moving closer, his musky scent hitting me like a splash of water. You can't disown me. Don't be ridiculous. I scoffed. Save the drama. You're here because I'm carrying Alpha's child, right? Yes, it's a good thing for the family, and I'm ready to accept you back if you are ready. I glanced at him, surprised at his confidence. You are a selfish, proud man, Beta Darren, and I want nothing to do with you anymore. Please, leave now. He sucked his breath, his cheeks red. This is your final decision? I raised my brow and stared fully at him. Have a good one, Beta Darren. Pick your basket on your own. You can give it to Stella. I'm certain she will be receptive to the gifts. I would perform an acceptance ritual and announce to the packs that you're my daughter, he said. Glancing at me, I shook my head, visibly displeased. What if the Alpha's baby die? Would I remain your daughter? Would you still treat me well? You will always be a bastard to him, Aurora. Don't be deceived, Mum said, glaring at him. I could tell from the whimper in her voice that she was trying to play it cool. So was I. Don't say that. The goddess would protect you and the children. Nothing would happen to the Alpha's child. He protested, and I scoffed. I will always remain your bastard, and you will always remain dead to me. Have a good one, Beta Darren. He hesitated a bit, his features tightened and his fists clenched. Right. We will see soon, Aurora. I grunted harshly in response as he picked the basket and slammed the door behind him. I waited for a few minutes until I was sure he wasn't near and fell on the bed, shutting my eyes. Are you okay? That was a lot. Mum commented, patting my thigh, and I nodded slowly. I will be back. I'll instruct the maids to get some food for you. I started to protest, but she was already out of the door. I huffed and fell back on the bed. Dad had always been evasive about how I felt or how I was treated. I wasn't surprised he had come in here bearing gifts and pleading for a chance to be in my baby's life. The door creaked as I rose, a familiar scent filled the room, and I smiled immediately. Julia, I called in an excited tone. Where have you been all day? I asked as she settled near me and drew me into a bear hug. She smelled of olive. Oh, I was out with a friend. Are you okay? You look furious, she studied my face as I shrugged. Yes, all is right with the world now. Can we not talk about it, please? I said and changed the topic quickly. I'm thinking of opening a mini cafe in the pack. What do you think? Oh, Julia replied, looking surprised. You're pregnant, dear, and I don't think the alpha would be pleased if he discovers I agreed to this plan. You are going to stress yourself a lot, and it's going to affect you and the baby. I shook my head. I had thought about it for months now, and the idea made more sense when Mom mentioned the hamburgers. I enjoyed cooking and baking with you, and the idea of a mini cafe seemed like the right thing to invest my time in. But he won't be displeased about it, I promise. Besides, I'm doing all these so you won't leave. Her eyes drooped, her lips curving into a cute smile. That's so nice of you, Aurora, but I don't want the alpha to kill me. He's not going to be pleased. I sighed, knowing it was going to be hard to convince Julia. She feared the alpha so much that anything connecting her to him, she always found ways to be out of it, but not today. I assure you, he won't. You and I will be co-owners, and we can add pastries and beverages to the cafe's menu. Will you think about it, at least before saying no again? I asked, pouting my lips. She huffed, glancing at me. It's not like I have a choice, especially when you pull that face. It's irresistible. I chuckled, drawing her into a hug. Thank you. I'm so excited to get started. I can't wait to, friend. It would be the best. I chuckled as we exchanged ideas on the mini cafe interiors, and as we laughed, I couldn't help but be grateful for having Julia in my life. She made being a wolf and being pregnant seem so easy. He stood still, hesitating for a moment before pushing the double doors open. Alpha Lucas has a wide grin plastered on his face, and his legs are stretched apart. The table before him is filled with maps, and some parts are circled. The room is neat, and the air feels cold. Beta Darren, how do you do? Alpha Lucas smiles widely, signaling him to sit. Beta Darren growls, taking a look at the room. He shouldn't be here, and the Alpha knows it too. Why did you summon me here? You know the rules. What rules? Oh, don't act ignorant. A beta of a pack and an alpha of its rival pack shouldn't meet alone, especially not in a room like this. That rule? Who still follows it? Alpha Xavier and others I know of. I could be charged with treason if I am caught. Beta Darren yelled, hating himself for showing up here. He should have ignored the invite, but his curiosity made him accept it. Easy, Beta. I summoned you because I have some information that might interest you. Alpha Lucas leaned forward, rubbing his palms. His ring glowed beneath the light, and Beta Darren couldn't help but notice how exquisite it looked. What's the information? I hope it's worth my time. Alpha Lucas laughed, sitting upright. Aurora is pregnant, huh? Yes, it's great news. Everyone has been talking about it for days now. He replied in a lazy tone, wondering what the Alpha was up to. Oh, right. You're excited as well? Why am I here, Alpha? Alpha Lucas laughed. Okay, enough of the small talk. I'm the father of the child your daughter is carrying. What? That's impossible. How can you be the father? Well, the baby wasn't conceived through any form of sexual intimacy. Beta Darren narrowed his brows. How so? It was through surrogacy. I instructed the doctor to use my sperm, and I'm telling you because I know I can trust you. I still don't believe you. Aurora didn't tell me. Beta Darren stuttered, shocked by the last bit of information. Your relationship with her is strained. It's known all over the packs. I'm not surprised she didn't tell you. The Alpha flashed a crooked smile, making Beta shift uncomfortably on the couch. Beta Darren sighed, hating that the Alpha knew more than he did. He was going to deal with Aurora later, but for now, he had to keep his cool and know why he had been summoned. So, you are the father of my grandchild. What's the catch? Smart Beta. I knew I could count on you. I want us to work together and make sure the baby is born. Oh, you want the baby to live? Beta Darren asked sarcastically. Of course, I'm not as cruel as you think. The Alpha lashed, wetting his lips. I want the baby to ascend the throne, and after the birth we can get rid of Xavier. That's a good plan. I never liked Xavier. Beta Darren smiled, liking the plan already. So, what happens once Xavier is out of the picture? I'm going to walk in and claim the child as mine. Do you have proof? No one is going to believe your words with some kind of evidence. I have a DNA test result done, and you, Beta Darren, I can trust you, right? Of course, you can. This is a brilliant plan, and I'm all in. Great. So I need you to ensure the child stays alive. or else the plan wouldn't go as we discussed. Alpha Lucas said, watching him. No one must know about this, Darren. You mustn't breathe or speak about it, or I will have my men come after you. Beta Darren smiled bitterly. You won't, I give you my word. I want Xavier out of the picture as much as you do. I pledge my full allegiance to you, Alpha Lucas. Alpha Lucas applauded, smiling widely. Great, let's make a toast to our partnership, Darren. The crashing sound from within told him immediately that something was wrong. He pushed the door slightly, and a plate landed in front of him. Oh, Stella, why was she crashing the place now? Dad, you're home, Stella said, throwing a pillow at the far end of the room. He gasped as he took in the place. She had scattered everything everywhere, broken plates, cups, and the chairs weren't in their normal positions. What happened to the living room? I am angry. Can't you see that? She threw another plate at him, but he was quick to evade it. What's the issue, Stella? Talk to me. It's Aurora. Why does she always get everything before me? She got Alpha Xavier before me. She got pregnant for him before me, and now all seems right in the world. Stella. No, why would the bad bitch marry Xavier and get pregnant? Why not Stella? Don't I deserve the best things in life? Why should that bastard get everything before me? Stella, don't worry. He moved closer and drew her into a hug. We will figure everything out, and I promise to get you a good suitor. Better than Xavier, and more handsome too. Stella shrugged, releasing herself from his hold. There's no alpha that is better than Xavier. He's the most handsome, fiercest, and the pack's favorite. No one beats him on these qualities, Dad. He's the perfect man, and the rest are imbeciles. He replied, All right, don't worry, Stella. I promise to take care of it. I'm never going to let Aurora give birth to that child, Dad. I'm going to do everything to ensure she loses the baby. And Xavier would hate for it, she said, smiling cruelly. He shook his head and replied in a cold tone. No, Stella. Nothing must happen to Aurora's baby. I promise to take care of it, so trust me on this, all right? She snorted, rolling her eyes. Fine, I won't hurt a single hair on Aurora's precious child. I hope you mean it, darling, because I do. She must give birth to that child safely. Right, Dad. I got you loud and clear. She huffed, turning away angrily. He watched her leave and sighed. He had made a deal with a rival, and now he had to do everything to protect the child, even if it meant not pleasing his daughter and agreeing to his daughter's demands.